we're going to start tonight's select board meeting with actually a poll hearing is what we have on the agenda first, at 7 o'clock, actually 3 poll hearings. Before we get started, there are 5 audio recording devices that I see, and 1 video recording device. So everyone needs to be aware of that. And we have three poll hearings. We're going to handle them all at one time unless somebody has a problem with it. They all have to do with poles being placed on Ludwig Road, West Road, and Ludwig Branch Road. And you're the representative from Verizon that'll be placing the poles.
For Verizon. My name is Paul Davis. I work for a company that works for Verizon as a contracting company.
And you're Paul Davis.
Correct.
Okay. So you're the engineer that probably laid out and sent us all these great drawings.
We are the design company that did the job, yes. I did not do the job myself, though,
Okay.
to be more specific.
Okay. So I took a spin through there. Not a big job. Sounds like there's just a few poles being replaced, and it looked like from the drawings to me, I mean, I'm not putting words in it, we're trying to bring power in from both sides around West Road and up from Williamsburg Road.
Yeah, I counted 26 poles altogether with all 3 roads. And the reasons why the poles are being petitioned to be placed, there's 3 reasons, major reasons. Electric company wants to upgrade in that area. That's the first main reason. Second reason is the spans are pretty long. Some of them are almost 300 feet long. So they want to place what they call mid-pole spans in between some of the existing poles. And the third reason is there's a right-of-way there down off of Ludwig Branch Road, and I believe off of Ludwig Road going to West Road. Anyways, they want to get out, or I'm speaking just for Verizon. Verizon would like to get out of those right-of-ways, put the poles in the street so they can maintain the plant much easier. They can't get trucks up currently through the right-of-way, so that's becoming an issue.
So it's one of these where the poles go up to the woods. I guess I didn't notice that.
Yes, there's 2 sections actually off of Ludwig Road. If you take that left from Williamsburg, or actually off of Ludwig, there's a section that goes to a swampy area there. And then on the other side of Ludwig going up towards West Road, there's a section of right-of-way there too.
Are there any abutters here to our residents on Ludwig Branch, or West Road that are here to talk about these poles being placed and replaced? I don't see any. We looked at these briefly this week. 2 weeks ago when we scheduled the hearing. If you guys had any questions. But the whole idea is to update the service and make it easier to maintain.
Correct. Basically, yeah, in a nutshell.
Now, Mary, you had communications with a Catherine O'Connor.
That's right, yesterday.
With Verizon?
Yes. And I don't know if she got in touch with you. She called to say,
your note says Al Bassett's on vacation.
I was going to say, that I guess the first thing is that Al Bassett, who usually handles the poll hearings up here, is on vacation. So she really didn't have, there were a lot of questions she couldn't answer. But they had gotten, I think it was 2, 2, and 1 of the cards that they mail out. They have us mail out. We fill in the date. The cards are ready to go. They're stamped and addressed. 2, 2, and 1 for each of the 3 poll hearings had been returned to send it to Verizon. And she said that she did contact Al briefly, and he suggested that what we would have to do is open the meeting because it had been advertised, and then suspend it, adjourn, keep it open, and she couldn't answer any questions about when they would be able to send us a new set of packets with the new addresses. They, I believe, taken addresses from the street list. It turns out that there are fewer butters who appear on the street list but have out-of-state mailing addresses, and mailing was not forwarded.
I see a note on your note here. One is in Northfield, Illinois. And the other one's there's another address for Miami, Florida.
So I think they will, I assume what they'll do is send us a whole new set of petitions with a whole new set of cards. If those addresses all change, they'll come to the board, we'll set another date, I'll send the cards back out, and hopefully that one will be able to close.
Right.
Do you have any idea when they wanted to start? I know you're not in the operations end, right? You're the design engineer.
Right.
Do you have any idea when they wanted to start on this, or?
To be honest with you, the construction schedule is always a question mark. I can never answer that question. It all depends on their priority list and what they're doing in the area. That's all I can
And
tell
I
you.
did ask Kathy that, and she didn't know either.
Yeah.
She didn't have.
You can't, because construction is totally separate from engineering, and even though I'm not a Verizon employee, they have two totally different schedules, so I know nothing about the construction end of it
Okay,
when it comes to scheduling.
that's good. You don't have to answer any pointed questions.
One other quick point is when the petitions came in, even before they came to the board, I sent copies to Tom Poisson, the highway department, so he could go look and see if there were any issues. I saw him today, he doesn't have any issues.
So is there any reason we couldn't at least indicate that we have no difficulty with the polls, but we have to wait for the proper paperwork to bring it down again, just to vote? I mean, we're not opposed to any of these polls, we just have to ensure we do it according to the...
Although I think why it has to be done again is because even though some of the butter cards were delivered and there aren't butters here, if you hold a second hearing at that point, some of butters may show up and then it would be a discussion.
Because they have to notify everybody all over again.
They do.
Because you have another hearing, right, that's what I thought. And the change of address for the few that came back returned on the
So we have to at least make sure that those abutters are aware.
Right.
So
And have an opportunity to come and speak.
nobody's here, and like I said, I did a drive-by, you can see there was the addition of poles, which was not there are some long spans there. And not only long spans along the street that go across the road, across the road.
Yep.
Well, I would recommend that what we do is recess the poll to come back. What's our meeting in the middle of September? We'll set a date that we'll take this up again. We're not meeting there.
I think the next one is the 16th.
The 16th.
It's a Monday.
That would be my recommendation, instead of having to post another meeting, but we'll recess this meeting.
And we also meeting. Oh, you wanted the one.
We'll
Okay.
do it the 16th.
Yeah.
Well, this will be kind of a catch-up
Yeah.
tonight, I believe. So, does that make sense? Paula? Yeah, I mean, it's kind of holding them off, but these abutters need to at least have proper notification. I can't believe anybody would have a problem with it. Actually pulling it out of the right-of-way, you'd think they'd be very pleased.
If the board does know and wants to set the date now, then when they come in, I can just fill them out immediately and send them out
I do
with
have a
extra
question.
time.
Go ahead.
These plans seem to be absent of any description of the poles. And when we get a lot of attention from residents, when you go from a standard, I don't know, 20-foot pole to a 28-foot pole, and you start clearing canopies, and it's very noticeable. I don't see anywhere in here where it says old pole, this many feet, new pole, this many feet. And if I was an abutter to the property, I would be asking that question. The other thing is, in light of the amount of time that we're going to have before we hear this, has the tree committee even been aware of this? And this would be something that they might be fine with, and it'd be worth the notice, is all I'm saying.
Can I take a quick look at that?
What's that? Yeah, absolutely. I don't see it in the legend, I didn't see it in the description of the actual poles either. You can show me when I missed it, thank you.
New poles are dark.
Right,
Existing poles are expo. These are the footages.
what I'm asking for is the height of the pole.
Oh, the height of the pole, okay. Typically, without having the actual engineering prints on me, standard pole's 40 feet high. They call it 40-foot class 2 pole. So you're looking at 40-foot poles, basically, to be placed down that road.
I mean, the standard pole that I'm seeing replaced is a lot shorter than that, you know, so you're updating it with a taller pole is what you're doing.
Correct. Typically, the poles, I didn't look at the pole stats while I just took a ride through about a half hour ago. I didn't take a look at the pole stats on the existing poles,
Yeah,
but typically they're 35 feet.
okay,
So nowadays, standard pole's 40 feet,
okay.
flat. And sometimes they go with 45s if the electric company requests a 45-foot pole.
And a lot of cutting, I mean, is it minimal cutting?
As minimal as possible, because obviously the utilities don't want to spend a lot of money
That's right.
trimming trees and cutting trees down and that type of thing. If
So-
they can avoid it at all costs, they will.
I would suggest you pass it on to Harry. Is Harry the chair of that group?
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, that's all I had.
So I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting, or not adjourn, but recess this meeting, and come back on September 16th at 7,
I'll second
and
that.
try to get the final decisions made after all the paperwork is done. And maybe the tree committee certainly would, the tree warden, you know, both of them can take a look, although you said Tom is all set.
I'll check on that as well. Hopefully I'll come back to the September meeting, but I'll check on it and I'll try to get an answer for you about the trees too.
You have a long distance to travel? Or?
No, Sunderland,
Okay,
so it's down the road.
good. So I seconded your motion.
Any other discussion, any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's unanimous. We'll
Hopefully see you in September.
see you in September.
All right.
Maybe you'll be able to push this off on somebody else at that point.
Yeah, we'll hope so. Hopefully we can get those poles in as soon as possible too.
The note sounds like if Al Bassett's gone, that nothing can happen, so.
We'll see.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Hey, thanks for coming in, we appreciate it.
No problem.
So just to clarify, when the new petitions come in, I can go ahead and send the cards out, filling in that date. Doesn't need to come back.
Absolutely. Hand those back before I lose them. Well, that's too bad, that couldn't get taken care of. Let me try to at least start here by going down, let's go through the minutes of July 15th. Let's get these done.
I have a problem.
Go ahead, you don't have a copy?
This is the first time they've ever been presented to me, and I would sooner come back, given the amount of mistakes that have been made recently in our minutes. I'll bring my,
I didn't get them on my email either.
I didn't get anything.
I think
I didn't
on
get
Monday.
it. The first I've seen them, so I'd rather wait and spend some time on them.
I don't have a problem
And he's
with
got
that.
it
Do you,
on
Ron?
I don't have a problem with that.
All right, Sherry, look at that, flying through, of course we can get the minutes done. Sherry Scott, Bronson Ave, where's Sherry? Come up here where we can hear you and see you.
Hi, Sherry.
You can have a seat. There's a boundary?
Yeah. John and I had started looking to find the property lines for my property, and we can't find any pins or anything. So we hired Dan Werner to survey the property and found that it's a little weird the line between my property and the town parking lot next to my house. So we'd like to see if we could get a formalized boundary line from the select board. So Dan's here to show you things and explain things better than I can. And see, we'd just like to get it formalized if we can.
It is what it is, right? I mean, it's.
To some extent, but not necessarily. So I want to Sherry wants me to explain this.
Let's do it. Let's do it. We don't need to make a career.
Yeah, you can
Career out of
right up
something
here.
like this.
Lay it right. Good. Good to see you.
Come on, Paulette, get over here. We'll act like we know each other.
This is about 2,000 dollars now. From what I've seen, Bronson Manor was just, I haven't found the formal layout on either Bronson Manor or Buckland Road. I don't know if you've ever seen them.
I haven't looked for it.
That's, on the road, and I haven't found a layout on either. It's not a town, and I think it's a town layout. So, Sherry's deed reads, the owner's distance from Sherry's deed is 79 feet, and they call for stone bounds here, which you can find. When dropped from 7 back in 1920, it probably was, but, so we didn't really have a point to begin here on the road. I assumed that a 3-mile road, made it out, came down for 7 miles, and then went up.
But you didn't find the layout that said it was a 3-route.
Yeah, I did.
We don't know if it's 99 foot or 66 foot or what it is, right? Is that?
We don't, exactly, yeah. So we don't really have a point of beginning on it, but that's what it said. Kelly deed has a distance on it, 75 feet. Down this property line came over the 75 feet, and the deed into the town, but the latest deed in the town has like plus or minus 100 feet on the road and 150 feet, which is only 88 feet. But you take the deed back into the town, and prior deeds, including the one from Bronson originally, has no distances in it. So there's a little ambiguity here between where they just. I did my best to lay this out as best I can, but this line is somewhat ambiguous. And Sherry has some plantings here, in this area, and this is like, the edge of the park is right here. So, and John and Sherry, they're talking about trying to sometime put a little garage or addition on here and put the setbacks. It's very tight. So, I guess
So, we're not sure of this boundary?
I mean, I did my best to lay it out, but it still is, there's not being ambiguity there from what they're occupying or where the town parking lot is. And even
You tried to build off of this one too.
we did. We came down to 75 feet, and
Was there a marker here?
there's a pin there.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good start.
Oh, we found, at this point, we actually tied in, had a deed distance to the house. So I know that's a good point. And this line fine, it came over 75 feet parallel. That line's not a problem, but the ambiguity lies in here.
You're saying that this 98.16 there's ambiguity in that also?
Well, the deed into the town calls for approximately 100 by 150 foot lot, which you take it to the previous deed from, including the one that originally came out of Bronson, there was no, there's no distances in the deed. And this, what Sherry and John would like to ultimately would be some type of agreement on this line. And in actuality, they would also wondering if not could they pick up a 10-foot strip here and add to the piece. I don't know what's involved to do that. And that's what they want me to bring in front of you guys to discuss.
Who owned the land before the town?
Question.
Probably Bronson, wasn't it?
Well, Bronson was back in the, after Bronson, someone else. Finney,
Margaret Finney.
Georgiana Gorman. I think
Oh,
it was-
Georgiana Warren.
She was the one, I think, that came to the town. Yeah, Georgiana Gorman. Yeah, sold it to the town.
So it was in there because they were using the parking for some purpose, maybe having to do with the school?
Oh, all the teachers parked here.
Oh,
That was
okay.
teachers parking and they had to walk up that.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
so just, Sherry and I wondering what's involved to either, I want to get an agreement, solidifying the plan, at least to get the planting, what, or the, a little more setback.
Are they short, or is that the deed distance?
That is the deep distance. Like I said, but we did not find any stones around. There should have been marble stones at one point in time.
And we're
Nothing.
not sure it's that.
Right.
You just holding the pavement?
We held the center line, came off the rod and half.
A lot of these roads aren't really built in the center of the roadway by any stretch.
I'd be curious, a lot of what was done by,
Ainsworth.
yeah.
And I tied into their survey.
And did they call 3 rods? Did they call?
They actually held the stone wall, there's a stone wall here
Yeah.
at this point, and it kind of comes out.
And how does that stone wall look as a projection?
Where,
Pretty good?
it's, this pin is actually at the end of the stone wall here.
Yeah, we know that.
We know that wall.
We have some issues here.
Yeah.
But if you line that wall out, is it a pretty good shot through there, or?
Well, this wall kind of goes like this stuff on the road, there's a bend.
Yeah.
So, but,
From that point down?
from here it takes a little kick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did tie into the, I did tie into the survey.
John?
Yeah, can I come up and make a
Sure, of course.
John Engelman, Smith Road. This speaks more to the practicality of it than the specifics of normally that. Sherry's plantings go, she's already using, the grassy area all the way up to the bunkers here that Dan mentioned, which is already,
They're basically at the edge of the ground.
yeah, which is already like 11 feet from his boundary line here. So what's being used now is this, and she's got grass and plants here, which don't even seem to fall within this. So you're looking, she's looking for a boundary line agreement which accepts what she's already using. And then if we can, pick up a couple of feet, that would be good. I did check out parking lots, how much area is needed for cars that go in this way. It's like 55 feet. So I measured, for this side, significant where the parking meters and truck over, you've got over 60 feet before you get back in this area. So with regard to affecting parking availability, it doesn't really affect it. It's just a question of, and there's plenty of room to park, the way that they park traditionally.
I apologize for not paying more attention. Is that used for just a community parking lot there now?
Have people on the street, sometimes for the T-ball, when the kids are playing ball up at the old Sanderson.
So it still gets used. It has a purpose.
Yeah, the town plows it in the wintertime. And it's still, mostly it's just for the kids who play too. And it's a pretty tight street, so in the wintertime, people are shoveling their driveways, they put their cars in the parking lot, or if they have guests, mostly it's the people on the street that use it. And then fall festival, sometimes, people park.
How, what brought this on looking at it? Are you thinking of putting an addition or putting an
Sure,
addition?
just need to put a
Yeah.
small garage in here, yeah. Even then, it would require a waiver, probably, on the setback.
This is kind of the
The
first.
25-foot setback, it would require a variance. The other thing is, when this was transferred to the 1057, it looks like, that's the first time any dimensions show up. And it looks like somebody just walked it off arbitrarily, because it says about 100 here, which is close. But then they have the depth of the property on the deed going 150 feet. Well, Dan's measurement here is only 80. So,
And that's to the edge of the brook.
that's the edge of this, 150 puts it in Bill Nash's yard somewhere. So I don't know, how credible those initial, certainly wasn't a survey, let me put it that way.
it's deep there. So
Yeah,
but not,
that's about 110.
yeah.
It's still really short.
What's the book name?
When it was deed, John, when was that deeded to the town?
1957.
57. Yeah, you would think. The edge of the brook's probably old. The edge of the brook is kind of a moving target.
And when you got back from all this over, but that was, they want to present it to the
So it just seems a little ambiguous, just want to normalize it. Future.
What are your thoughts? I mean, is this something that, this shouldn't drag on and on? I mean, if we got a question, can we answer it?
Well, I think that the ambiguities that he's talking about, Dan's talking about, are pretty normal when you just want a lot of surveying in the hill towns. A way to resolve it, if this board was inclined to want to do that in a sort of friendly way, is you create a boundary line agreement. And then Dan, you would draft it, tell you where we agree that it would be, and it's a binding agreement, you know, and it's done. At that point, the two parties, party on this side, party on that side, have agreed to it and do it. I think for us to do that, we should have some more time go by, so that this is the first time it's been brought up, so that butters can come and voice concerns and such. But it's an easy fix if we're inclined to want to work with them on that, you know, and say, for example, if it was this, okay, we agree, and I'm not saying we do, but we agree with the edge of the planning, continue that line forward, and let's call it a day at that point. It could also be a point 10 feet off of this, it could be, you know, anything we really want. We have to have that public discourse. It's very important.
Sure. We can expect to get this.
And the answer might be no.
If we put it off, you know, God knows when we might get back to it. I mean, and it doesn't seem to me like we're trying to launch the space shuttle off of this, you know, I mean, it's...
No, I mean, there's, if you go out there, you'll see some little concrete barriers right here, right at the edge, and that's where
I guess that's what I always thought was the boundary.
yeah, and that's, and, you know, that's right at the edge of this gravel, you know, it's about, you know, 10 feet off on or whatever. You know, make it a sort of concrete. Yeah, it's actually, that's the camera right there, right there. But, yeah, we weren't expecting a decision tonight, but we wanted to pose the question. Well, this is where I'm coming up with
The
an
line.
approximate property line.
So 10 feet goes out to
And 10 feet would come right, just.
to those barriers?
Yeah, we can do the barriers.
So the plantings are on this side.
The papers are all sure, it's probably,
It's being used now, except for a couple
So it's easy to see if you walk over and take a look.
Yeah.
That's all.
Did you have any thoughts on
Well,
what you...
I think Ron's idea, I mean, this is areas you've dealt with before. And take a look, and like you said, there's a butters, and so everybody gets to know, and nobody is upset
We've already talked to, who's
after.
on the other side of the lot?
Rich.
Rich.
Yeah.
She's already talked to him.
Two over here.
Yeah.
And the only issue here is it's an asset of the town.
Oh, absolutely.
And we have to exercise due diligence in making that decision.
We aren't expecting a decision.
It's an asset of the town that we haven't done a damn thing with. I mean, at some point, there's a question of, you know, should it be developed more? God knows, Main Street area, we need a little more parking. But should we put this off to, do we want to take this up again after we've all had a chance to go look at it and kind of...
Sure. Let's take a look and see what it is we're talking about. Plus, would we do a line, and this is not a question I expect us to answer, like 10 feet because you just need some up here and you come back at an angle, or you go straight back, or, you know, 10 feet all the way along?
But it needs to be, you know, certainly if you go from the corner of the road, and I'm sure Buckland Road has expanded since the 1700s. Tom Poisson has a map that lays out every road, but it should be the same maps that you referred to, the deed,
I've got
registry of deeds.
well, it's not shown, and I didn't, you know, I haven't seen it in here, but I'm not, that's not saying somewhere very remote.
If it's a town road, it's probably a 32 rod, 33 foot road.
Well, three, you know, I showed it as three, but, you know, even if you have no layout, and Ron probably knows this too, you know, you're not gonna find any balance from 17.
No.
So, in the end, there's still ambiguity there.
But we know where this bound is.
Well, this is just a pin that Ainsworth set at the stone wall.
Well,
so-
is there a marble stone there in that stone wall that we
Well,
looked at?
I think Ainsworth shows that stone wall, the face of it, I can't remember. but
It
The
is.
face of it is
This
along the.
This pin's right at the stone
So,
wall.
can I see your room? Is it more or less, that's what you did, you held a line of that retention wall?
Yeah.
And there's nothing over on this side that helps, where they had to do all that
No,
work.
no, I looked at all that old FD
And that's pretty reasonable assumptions, I think he's holding that retention wall coming down, and it doesn't look like it's in too much violation. Chance that would kick in 2 rods or something like that.
I would think a lot of the changes would be here where the brook is, you know.
That's-
The culvert's
yeah.
been put in, the bridge came out, but, you know.
That's what I was wondering.
Why don't we put this on the agenda for September 16th? We'll like
Oh, good.
Yeah, this would be good, if anyone, Mary, has a question on this and they want to come to your office and maybe you could put this on an 8.5 by 11, can you do 11 by 17 on the copy? You can, right?
I think so.
There you go. So, I mean, you could get the bulk of this plan if someone wanted to just go out there with a piece of paper.
Or I could email the PDF of it.
That'd be great.
That'd be
awesome.
That'd be great.
So the issue is we really only got one boundary down there, and we don't have.
Oh, no, he built off of this one.
This one, he's got that one. We don't have an exact one here, and they're looking for specifications going back in terms of this distance. And it's stated at 100, but
About
we show
about
100, yeah. And that shows up in 1957. So whoever owned this piece before, they don't have dimensions on
No,
it
it goes back to 1920, 1895.
without dimensions.
Without dimensions.
There must have been an old oak tree that helped.
Well, they called it a garden lot. It was part of the lot on Main Street.
There's a walking bridge over there.
Well, why don't we, we'll take it up again in September, give us a chance to look at it. I don't believe any of our goal is to hold up progress, and certainly if there's something that needs to be decided, let's decide it.
Are you going to keep that piece? I guess you are.
If Dan's gonna leave it with us, we'll keep it, but if he wants to take
Dan,
it.
is it possible you can put a couple bean poles in along the boundary lines? Because that's the only thing we don't see.
Yeah, this is basically, I'll put it in here, I'll put it in.
Or a bean pole, and even if you don't, a pin's fine too.
I'll put a stake there, it's basically right in line with that pole.
Okay,
And then I'll put a point on here.
that'd be perfect. So you can see it on the ground, and then you can see the edge of the plane, you can see the gravel.
So don't be shooting at us, Sherry, if you see us tripping around.
All right,
All right.
Hey, Gus.
all right, thank you guys.
On the agenda for 16.
Yeah, on the 16th, that'd be fine. So, right, we can take a hike. Yeah, leisure, absolutely. It's not like we don't know where that neighborhood is.
Well, and he's gonna put something there, so it'll make it really easy to see.
Where the property line is, and then you have the edge of planting is one line, and then the gravel or the bumpers is the other.
All right, second appointment tonight, town hall staff. We've got Ann, Laura, Mary, Lynn. They want to talk to us about public document request issues and concerns and staff requests.
I'd like to speak, if I may, and read a letter that's been written and signed by the staff collected for employees, and also read 2 recent emails I have received that makes me feel I need to bring this to your attention.
Go ahead, let's get the issue on the table.
And before I begin, I want to say this makes me very uncomfortable and very sad that I have to do this. This letter I'm going to read is written and signed by Laura Blakesley, myself, Lynn and Mary. We ask for the opportunity to speak tonight in order to bring your attention to the current situation regarding the public document requests and requests for information we receive and continue to receive at the town office. Several things have occurred recently with the cumulative effect that our attempts at compliance are now at least very difficult, if not untenable. Additionally, other situations have occurred which have greatly and negatively impacted and affected the work environment in the town office. I received 7 public document requests in 9 calendar days, from July 16 to July 24, 2013. The tipping point for me was on Monday, July 22nd, when I received 3 requests. For reference, I'm going to read 2 of the emails received on July 22nd. To give you an appreciation of the impact on our attempts to respond, on the time we have to dedicate to fulfilling the request, which is 10 calendar days, please note the undertones and implications in the language used and the extreme breadth of some of the requests, as well as their non-specific nature, which in many cases are also mixed with insults, admonishments, reprimands, and false accusations. Here is a sample of the wording from some of the emails. Altered public records. Abdicate your role. Submit false invoices. Mary Fitzgibbon inserts herself. Collusion. Intentional camouflage. Relinquish duty to perform. Not altered, not substituted. False DUNS numbers. Forward me the MGL that allows you to abdicate the town clerk's duty, and fraud. The first email I'm going to read is from Deborah Nicholson, received on July 22nd. And it's sent to several boards and members, and it reads and it's addressed to Mary. I never received an answer regarding the document request originally submitted on February 18, 2013. I did request the information from Anne Dunn multiple times, which I understand she forwarded to you. As you know, the public records law requires a response whether or not you intend to make the records available. And a lot of it is written in red, just so you get an indication of what I received. I also understand from reviewing public records that Paul Schwem was able to access and save the series of 192 Ashfield Board of Health emails regarding my original request addressed to Erin Kishner. This is the same public records request that everyone had so much trouble with concerning Gmail files collapsing, missing, metadata, or the body of the email was absent when the metadata was listed. Now those specific Board of Health emails are intact. I'm requesting a complete digital copy of those 192 emails requested twice from the health agent and then Susan Clark without success. These were the BOH emails. Strings included District Health Officer Charlie Konecki, Paul Halfman, MDPH, Tom Riley, and Patricia Barry was DPS. Attorney Kevin Heffernan, and FCR HRA admin staff, etc. Then Ron Kohler, Brian Clark, Anne Dunn, Doug Field, yourself, and according to Susan Clark and Duncan Coulter, at a subsequent Board of Health meeting, possibly hundreds of people reviewed after realizing they contained evidence of collusion and altered public records. As you may remember, when I received from Anne Dunn on the flash drive compiled by then Board of Health town employee Erin Kishner, contained only a handful of documents, desktop shortcuts, without their associated files. I made everyone aware of this at the time, but was repeatedly told technical problems prevented access. After that, Susan Clark provided printed pages containing some edited content, which, while claiming to encounter additional technical issues. Subsequently, Paul Schwem successfully resolved the issues, creating access to the material for town hall staff and furnishing you with a password to the previous problematic Board of Health Erin Kishner files. Finally, this now allows access to that material in its original format with the accompanying identifying metadata. I look forward to receiving a complete copy and can furnish a flash drive to facilitate my fourth attempt at this request. On a related topic, I read the Selectboard unofficial question mark minutes of July 25, 2012 and take issue with what you evidently stated regarding the above mentioned topic. and wish to address your comments, starting with quotation. First of all, this was really a request to the Board of Health. I couldn't agree more, Mary. So why have you been so completely involved, consumed by the business and actions or inactions of the Ashfield Board of Health for the past 2 years? What was your reason to have previous Select Board Chair Norman Russell attend the BOH meeting and comment regarding the unplanned executive session with Commissioner Reid, the open meeting law complaints? Were you also behind the subsequent Chair Doug Field later announcing anyone who disclosed executive session material would be guilty of a criminal offence? And why have you answered their open meeting law complaints, acting as intermediary with various health agents, interfered with document requests, and been involved with the Housing Authority and FERCOG and admin staff and that of the FCCIP in order to apparently direct, control and manipulate outcomes to the detriment of residents of the Ashfield House Apartments? And you apparently continue with, in quotation, secondly, no such documents as those exist. There's no sign-up sheet, etc. Vice Chair Ron Kohler decided every public records request would be tracked to record the identity of the person making the request, the amount of time involved in the document sought. When did he indicate that this only applied to certain members of the public? How is it that potentially hundreds of people were able to electronically access those 192 Board of Health emails without having to identify themselves and pay a fee? If every public document request made by a handful of citizens in town is completely logged and recorded, why would you, Town Clerk Ann Dunn, and the Ashfield Board of Health fail to keep track of access to records that potentially creates a serious liability? Also attributed to you, the only persons who would have had any involvement would be the 2 office employees and the IT person who was called to help retrieve some information from a thumb drive which was unsuccessful. Mary, you know this is completely untrue. It was made perfectly clear at a Board of Health meeting and recorded. The material in question that I requested was being widely distributed for review by countless individuals, perhaps hundreds, including current Select Board member Ron Kohler, who indicated his involvement was for HIPAA issues. Susan Clark also stated specifically her husband Brian was involved. By virtue of the fact they requested or were given access to Board of Health records that might contain protected medical information, the records keeper, custodian, and the Ashfield Board of Health had an obligation to carefully control access. Regarding your comment about being put into the uncomfortable position of being asked to provide information that should not be tracked in the first place, it is intentional camouflage, Mary. Had those 192 emails remained intact as required by law, there would have been no need for a second request for the same information. And if your statement was actually true, please instruct both the Chair and Vice Chair of the Select Board, as well as Ann Dunn, that they should not be tracking anyone who is asking for public records. I will expect your estimate response within the time frame specified by law, which is 10 calendar days, and perhaps these minutes need revision in order to reflect the town's role in the Ashfield House Apartments that we are starting to comprehend, instead of attacking those who have been significantly harmed by that financial relationship interest. The second email I would like to read is from Suzanne Corbett, also received on July 22nd. And this one is addressed to me. And it references public document request, FDA funding 2010, Ann Dunn's interfacing with Glen Eyre's Board of Health. During the time period when Ashfield was considering Glen Eyre's employment through Franklin Regional Council of Government's Public Health Inspection Program, Mary Fitzgibbon was not employed by the town of Ashfield. You were the keeper of the records. You have a series of correspondences to and from the FERCOG and Ashfield's treasurer, not Mary Fitzgibbon, during this time period in regards to the initial FDA funding and multiple requests by Glen Eyre to supply him with the usable DUNS number. Furthermore, why has Mary Fitzgibbon inserted herself into the keepers of records position when issues first arose with the false DUNS number, along with tenants' issues in regards to the residency at the Ashfield House Apartments? Is it because she has an active role with the Franklin Regional Council of Governments and regionalisation requires public health and housing authorities to be under the Council of Government's umbrella. That appears to be a conflict of interest, as one would expect citizens of Ashfield to be of concern first, then outside interests or outside employment opportunities. In 2010, a DUNS number was provided in order to proceed with Glenair's FDA funding. The FDA rejected the town's DUNS number, refused to process the funding until the FDA was provided with a valid DUNS number. You maintain the role of correspondent for the town of Ashfield Board of Health in regards to this problem, and then staff furnished another DUNS number for Glenair's FDA funding. Glenair's emails verify the first rejection by FDA and verify his multiple requests for a usable DUNS number for FERCOG's FDA monies. This is the era and time frame I am requesting public documents. I am requesting your correspondences to and from the town of Ashfield, from your town employment position, and to and from members of the FERCOG in regards to the FDA funding for the Board of Health and FERCOG, and all correspondences with Ashfield's Treasurer relative to DUNS numbers and the FDA funding. Under the Massachusetts Public Records Law, MGL Chapter 66, Section 10, I am requesting that I be provided copies of the following records. All documents and electronic transmissions in the original format by and between Anne Town Treasurer and Glenair's from May 1, 2010 to December 31st, 2010. Additionally, this is to include the original DUNS number used by FERCOG, the correspondences by Glenair's requesting assistance to be given a valid DUNS number, and the Police Department POC created as the alternate DUNS number for FDA funding. And number 2, please provide the documentation of the statute and/or Ashfield's bylaws that allows the known keeper of records, town clerk, to abdicate that role to the executive administrator to the select board. Please submit documentation from the presiding authority that the town clerk may relinquish a duty to perform to another relative to the public document request. The Public Records Law requires you to provide me with a written response within 10 calendar days. If you cannot comply with my request, you are statutorily required to provide an explanation in writing. And that's just 2 of the emails that I wish to highlight that I received on one day. And the third one has 11 items requesting similar information. To give you some idea of the volume, in 2012, the town clerk received 31 public record requests. The requests were received from Suzanne Corbett, Deborah Nicholson, Sherry Jordan, and Paulette Lucart. To date, the town clerk has received 55 requests in 2013. 50 have come from Suzanne Corbett, Deborah Nicholson, and Cheryl Jordan. In general, the requests continue to arrive and appear to have no other purpose than to mire us down and defeat our attempts to get anything else done. They take up both time and energy and force us to dedicate our resources in an attempt to fill the requests, no matter how incoherent, rude, complex in nature and lengthy, while at the same time we are bullied and insulted. Additionally, as mentioned earlier, there is another piece to this recently elevated new level of abuse, as if we are under attack. There appears to be a common and repeated thread between requests for information by Select Board member Paulette Lucart and the 2 years of public document requests that link Paulette to the 3 requesters. In June 2012, Paulette Lucart requested documents in relation to the Ashfield House as an Ashfield resident, at the time when in good faith the requests were fulfilled. However, given Paulette Lucart is and was a member of the Select Board, her affiliation and association with the 3 requesters has not been disclosed. And this is an excerpt from the summary of the conflict of interest law under on-the-job restrictions. Appearance of conflict, acting in a manner that would make a reasonable person think you can be improperly influenced is prohibited. See section 23b(3). A municipal employee may not act in a manner that would cause a reasonable person to think that she would show favor towards someone or that she can be improperly influenced. Section 23b(3) requires a municipal employee to consider whether her relationships and affiliations could prevent her from acting fairly and objectively when she performs her duties for a city or town. If she cannot be fair and objective because of a relationship or affiliation, she should not perform her duties. However, a municipal employee, whether elected or appointed, can avoid violating this provision by making a public disclosure of the facts. An appointed employee must make the disclosure in writing to his appointing official. Along the same lines, one information request from Deborah Nicholson dated July 22nd was sent to the Select Board, the Personnel Board, the Board of Health and office staff. In all, 12 people received this one email. The subject line is prior document request. I believe this tactic is an effort to intimidate town office employees. I would also note that this attempt has apparently been condoned by both the Personnel Board and the Select Board, neither of which have seen reason to either question the email or to defend the employees from the malicious and false implications of dishonesty contained in it. In general, we believe we are set up for failure. We have apparently been dealt with dishonestly by a group of individuals, including Paulette Lucar, for no good reason, and no other reason than we are employed by the town. Our loyalty, hard work, honesty and dedication have been rewarded with insults, dishonesty, collusion and manipulation. In the end, the byproduct of what has been described will ensure that nothing else gets accomplished as a result of what is occurring. The work atmosphere will be poisoned irreparably, good and loyal employees insulted, denigrated and abused. The town taxes will be raised again to pay for legal expenses incurred in addressing these requests. We are requesting written guidance from the Select Board on how to handle and process these public documents requests. Thank you. Laura Blakesley, Mary Fitzgibbon, Lynn Taylor and Anne Dunn.
Thank you. I can certainly understand how difficult it was to get through that, Anne, so we appreciate it.
Yes.
Are there any other comments from any of the other staff? I don't want to... Was it pretty well stated in that letter, or is there something else to be shared?
It's very well stated in the letter. It's been about 2.5 years. Requests are repeated over and over again and sent in by different people, and then it starts all over again. And it has completely affected our ability to get work done. These requests, and I would point out that Anne is really addressing the public records requests, but there are also open meeting law violations, and there have been a lot of those. Both public records requests and open meeting law violations come with
Violation complaints,
come with a very short timeline that the state has set for responding. And so it really doesn't matter how many other things need to get done for the business of the town, and there are a lot of things that need to get done for the business of the town. Over and over again, those have been taking precedence. If they don't, we risk not being in compliance, but it is unsupportable. It's not possible. They can come in, the pace just picks up. So the town has been very supportive. We have more hours, but we've begun to realize that there are just more requests to come faster and are more complicated. And I don't think I've seen anything in any of the requests that hasn't been supplied many times in one form or another by one board or another. And I think it's affected everybody. Volunteer boards, people who work in town hall, and others. Some of the other departments in town have had some of it, not as much.
Lynn, do you have anything to add? Laura?
No, I think it was very well said. Summed it up.
This is an unusual sized crowd for a select board meeting. And could I just have a show of hands polling the crowd here tonight? How many are here for this particular agenda item? If I could just get pretty much everybody. So obviously this is a topic that has a lot of people talking, a lot of discussion. And I noticed some pretty straightforward folks here that have done a lot in the community, so it's not what I normally do, is to open the floor up for some comments, but I think tonight maybe we better since there's so many of you here. But before I do that, Ron, do you have anything to add before we?
I'll wait and see what is
Paulette?
I'm listening.
Mr. Monahan?
Thank you. I apologize, I'm speaking tonight reluctantly. I understand, as most of you do, many of us are either involved in town government or spouses are involved in town government. So we understand what's required of somebody who does that. Basically, you keep a secret, you get a thick skin and you work hard. You understand that you won't be rewarded, it's just got to get done. So you demonstrate the loyalty and you do it. And so does your family. I'm hesitant to speak based on that. I think some of us as well, individually, collectively, have been hesitant to address this in the past. I think quite a lot of people have known that this is going on. I think we believe that if we looked the other way when somebody was insulted in a select board meeting, or if we ignored the fact that an email that's 4 pages long and insults the town employees at every drop comes in, and if we ignored that, this problem would go away. If we work harder, as the town employees have tried to do, a lot harder, to meet the challenge, to supply the information, this in turn would go away. These people would be happy. Instead, all we've done individually and collectively is acquiesce to a bunch of bullies who haven't taken the hint, who haven't stopped. This has gotten worse and worse. You know, and I understand why the employees don't speak up, because they've got that oath and that responsibility. They're trying to live up to what they are required to do. Ironically, and I thought about this on the way up here, maybe there's another reason why they haven't spoken up. What you've got is 4 women who've decided they need to break away from their abusers. Think about it for a minute. We've all heard the stories from Cleveland of the 3 women that had to be rescued from a house. If these 4 women have sat there and tried to fulfill their obligations and work harder and work harder and work harder and kept thinking that maybe if they just do some more, it'll work out. Well, it didn't, because the people who were responsible for this kept going on, and they kept doing it. And along the way, they're taking up their time and their energy and our tax dollars. And they're taking away from the rest of the work of the town. One little instance that came up, and it was personal to me. I'm married to the town clerk, no kidding, yeah, I understand. But at least she hasn't thrown me out yet. Sometime back in the early summer, the subject of reappointments came up. And 3 of those women were reappointed for 1 year. Not the 2 years that was done last time around in 2011. When Doug Field came to them and said, I'm going to move that you be reappointed for 2 years. The year before that, they'd been appointed for 1 year because of the turmoil following the resignation of the previous town clerk. Prior to that, I believe if you check, and I encourage you all to check, the appointments were for 3 years. It became an appointed, from the time that it became an appointed position. Irregardless, in the middle of this meeting, at the end of that meeting when the appointments were discussed, Ms. Lukart specified they should be 1 year, and she remembered they were 1 year. And then the closing comment on the rationale for why was because if at 1 year it became easier to dismiss them. I'm sorry, I don't have a very well organized speech on this. So these employees, let me get this straight. These employees are laboring under this pile of document requests that never shrinks, comes in, insults them, takes up their time, which they strive mightily to comply with. And then at the same time, they're left with the implication that they can be dismissed within a year. That's how their loyalty is rewarded? I sat here in a meeting last year and listened to you lecture Doug Field and Ron Kohler on how you build a team. Is that how you build a team? I'm sorry, I don't know anything about team building. I've only got 32 years in the Army. But if I did that, somebody would take my head off.
Anybody else have any comments to share? Mr. Murray.
Mr. Chairman, I have a letter to read from Buzz Eisenberg, moderator, if that would be allowed.
It has to do with what we're discussing.
It does. This is on Buzz Eisenberg's letterhead, and I can leave it with you. It's Dear Ashfield Selectboard. I've learned that at tonight's meeting, the board will consider the demands being made on our town hall staff. I'll be unable to attend, so I've written this letter and asked Ted Murray to present it on my behalf. As town moderator, it is my job to ensure that all town meetings be conducted in a manner that is fair and orderly. Before and during every meeting, I work closely with Executive Administrator Mary Fitzgibbon, Town Clerk Ann Dunn, and at times Assistant Municipal Clerk Lynn Taylor in order to perform my duties. I can personally attest to the commitment and effort each demonstrates to make every meeting a successful exercise in democracy. But for too long, I have also seen that they accomplish these and other tasks at great personal and professional expense. I've seen the barriers they've had to surmount in trying to perform core functions, the functions which define our identity as a town and bind us together as a community. Their work week is simply too short and their compensation too small to reasonably provide them the time to perform all the tasks currently demanded of them. For our annual and special town meetings to remain the bedrock of our form of governance, our staff must be able to do what's required in order to properly prepare the meetings. The same is true for our elections. Each election is an enormously important undertaking for our clerk and assistant clerk, requiring their focused attention. Something must be done to alleviate the unrelenting burdens imposed on our staff. In addition to our reliance on them to keep the day-to-day operations of town running properly, they are also our neighbors. I implore the board to find a way to make it possible for these public servants to perform the critical functions required of them. Very truly yours, Buzz.
Thank you, Ted. Any other comments? Mr. Perlman.
I've had some experience with this kind of behavior on the part of this particular group of people, and it's not pleasant. And I have seen the results of their putting pressure and literally psychological torture on women who are no longer working in town hall. It was not a nice thing to see. The level of venality of this behavior is indescribable. You often run across people who will do things for their own benefit to boost their own positions. This seems to be an issue in which the only goal is to denigrate somebody else. I have asked Paulette several times to please explain what the goal of these attacks, of this strategy is of this group of people, which dates back to former select boards. It's been unrelenting ever since. She has refused time and again to say anything about it, but continues to participate in it. And there is very little that I can find in any of this that can bring any good to this town. It is costing money, it is costing time, it is laying on extreme psychological stress onto these people. I cannot understand what kind of mental illness people will suffer from to be able to do this to their neighbors. It would seem to me it's a form of psychosis that I can't put a name to. But it is unacceptable in the extreme. It is unacceptable in New York City, and worse so in a town like Ashfield. I will one more time ask Paulette to explain some manner of explanation to justify her behavior, to justify the treatment that this group of people have exposed to the town employees. And I would suggest that if she is not ready to do that, then what she should do is step down, join her friends, continue this attack, but get off the select board, because it's difficult to imagine that somebody who has run for the select board could continually do things that are as harmful as this to the town. Thank you.
After I talk to the page.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
What did you say? I will
Louder.
speak with Koppelman and Page because I will say nothing that will hurt this town. Thank you.
I still couldn't hear that.
What she said is she's not going to make any comments until she, I assume that she's talking about her own attorney. You're getting your own attorneys through Koppelman and Page, or you're figuring that that's the town's?
No, I think it would be good to use Koppelman and Page on behalf of the town. If I'm going to answer any questions, I wouldn't want to say anything that would cause some kind of harm that's unbeknownst to me.
Could you lean forward into the microphone, please?
I don't have an answer right now, but for whatever.
Anybody else have any comments? Doug, you've been just kind of waving your wrist, but I know that means you want to say something.
Right. Doug Cranston, 326 Suburban Drive. I think our office staff, without doubt, works as well as any group we've had in this hall for the last 55 years. What a shame to have this degree of people able to get the job done on time and done well. I didn't come out quite right with that, but I think you got the gist of it. There apparently is no way to protect town personnel against the abuse problems. Either we bring about this protection as a town or have the state rewrite a law that will do it for us. My question is, how many of these documents have been paid for? How many have not been paid for or even picked up? I think because of the abusive process, repetitive requests, personal accusations, defamation of character, just plain harassment. And without a doubt, there is some collusion that's taking place between one of our select persons and other people in town. And I don't think this should be allowed to happen. I don't know what we can do as a town to try to protect the people that work here against this sort of problem. And I don't know whether we can get the state to bring up some laws that would help prevent this from happening. Besides.
Doug Mollison.
Doug Wallace on Holly Road. I'm sitting here seeing dollar signs, as many as maybe triple digits out the way. I kind of am disturbed with Paulette saying possibility of talking with Koppelman and Page. I would expect that the select board would take a vote to let her talk with them and that not be her discretion to call Koppelman and Page in the town's name. If she wants to pay for it herself, fine. But why should we, unless we're answering real problems, why should we pay for her to talk to Koppelman and Page? I don't think it's necessary. If she wants to on her own, fine. But I don't think the town of Ashfield should pay them anymore. We have a wonderful lawyer in Greenfield, does a great job. Let's stay with her.
Doug, I follow your thought process, right? I mean, that's something we'll have to discuss and figure out where we're going with this. Right, Donna McNichol really is still our town council, so I appreciate that. I can't see behind Dale's head. There. Cheers,
I'm Celia Short from Sears Road. Obviously, the issues that the town employees have brought forth have caused them considerable stress and strain in the select board and the townspeople as well. I want to thank the town employees. I want to thank you for the courage of your convictions to bring forth these issues in such a public way. I don't think it was easy, very hard to bring something forth like that when you're an employee, so I want to thank you. And I don't know what the solution is, but I do hope that we can figure it out, because the strain is really just, is untenable.
Dr. Rowe.
The leverage that is had against the town staff depends upon state law, which they quote, which those who are bringing these requests quote all the time. This and that statute and whatnot, and you've got to reply within 10 days according to this or that statute and so on. And if I may be blunt, I think it is a defect in that statute that has made us vulnerable here. That is at the root of the problem, which is that this stuff keeps going on, and there is, we have no recourse. Beyond that, there is a wall behind which they're standing in those statutes. We have no way to say no to these requests. Now, that, and beyond that, when a matter involving you all has been referred to the state agencies in charge of monitoring this business, the answer that comes back from them is full of ambiguities, full of the suggestion that what is being requested here is about, I'm thinking particularly of their complaints about the minutes of meetings, and whether they're offered in a timely fashion, and whether they're full enough, and agendas, whether they're full enough and whatnot, whether they really indicate what's going on in the meeting and all. The regulatory agencies that are reviewing those complaints come back with all kinds of ambiguities and so on, and you got to do better, and we're not going to bring action against you now, but we hope you'll mend your ways, and so forth and so on. I mean, I think that what is going on here is being aided and abetted by the law and by the agencies responsible for administering those laws. And I believe what we need here to be seeking is some kind of amendment to those laws which distinguish between reasonable requests, which heaven knows we need to respond to, and unreasonable harassment, which is something else, and from which we should be defended and protected. So I think part of what's going on here should be an appeal to our legislators to call some hearings or something in Boston where this situation can be brought to the attention of people who can then see to the amendment of the law and the clarification of the law to distinguish between reasonable requests and unreasonable harassment. There's got to be a way to draw that line.
I'm going to keep taking, but I'd like to hear something new. I mean, we don't necessarily need to repeat the same thing over and over. Not that you're a repeat. Has been maybe, but not a repeat. Go ahead, Ted.
Ted Murray, Stroacker Road. Thank you for recognizing me, because to build right on what Don has said, if I understand correctly, the way these statutes are constructed, a response is required of the town within 10 days to such requests. But the response could be of the form that says, we're not going to be responding to you substantively because we find much of what you're asking for has in effect been so redundantly treated over and over again, witnessed these many other times, that I think you've then given an explanation of why you're not going to respond. And that, in some sense, might in fact trigger an appeal to the Attorney General, and so be it. I think it's likely that we're likely to get more back of this kind of obfuscatory nature, because I think, frankly, these institutions in Boston are unable to administer this law very effectively. They recognize implicitly, I think, the inadequacy or the shortcomings of it. And so they kind of give you this kind of vague, you know, little magic act about, yeah, you got to do better, and, you know, we could someday come out and threaten us. Fine, come out and threaten us, do an investigation if you think that's what's necessary. But we find at this town, at this time, given this kind of track record and the kind of damage we assess that's going on here, that it's perfectly reasonable to say we're not going to be answering every one of these. Now that requires some conscientiousness, because I think we at the same time want to be responsible to citizens who have legitimate inquiries to make about information, open meeting law violations, and so on. But much of this seems to verge right on the border of this kind of harassment. And I think that's the sort of thing that is contemptible. And that's what a number of people here, I think, are concerned about. So I wouldn't hesitate in some of these cases to simply say, no, we're not going to do that. And this is why. It could be a very short letter, about a paragraph or two.
Yes.
Judy Howe, Watson Spruce Corner Road. I think Don Robinson has the essence of a long-term plan, but I feel that the situation here is acute and demands a resolution right now of some sort. My question, maybe it's a legal question, is do we as a town have a right of vote of no confidence to our select board? And is there any bearing on the validity of getting a restraining order?
That, certainly we have to go to town council on, so someone would have to go to council on that, so. Mr. Creekor.
Yes, Jeffrey Creekor, Bellis Road. To Don's point, the laws are written for Wellesley, they're written for Newton, they're written for Ashfield. And what's reasonable, what's unreasonable, varies in the size of the audience. To inform the board, is there anybody here tonight in attendance, including any board member, who can explain why these requests are reasonable? Just a short 3-minute explanation to inform the board why these continue, why these have continued, and what can bring about resolution. Anybody in attendance tonight, board member or anybody else, is there anybody who can address that? I guess I rest my case.
Certainly, to address that, certainly after about the 15th request, it's hard to find anything reasonable about them.
No,
you know, maybe the first one or two, you know, when you...
No, but in terms of balance, just to give a fair hearing, let's hear why it's reasonable. And if there's anybody who can articulate it, I welcome it.
Well, I do too. I mean,
Is there anybody here tonight who can do that? Council, the select person?
All that.
Without legal counsel from your heart.
Yeah.
Okay, lean forward, please.
On July 1st, at a select board meeting, Ron Kohler reported that I had been seen with Suzanne Corbett and Deb Nicholson in my car. I'd like you to think about that.
At July 1st when, please?
2013, at a board meeting here. And he was very concerned about that. These people had been seen in my automobile. And he reported that. Think about it.
Mr. Carter,
well, Paulette brings up a point. I think it needs some context, because we were talking about, or Ron was talking about other actions that were taken and positions that were taken, and talking about the idea of too tight a relationship, you know, and how close some of these people are, and are we able to make rational judgments. So the idea of, you know, that people are walking around looking in people's cars, I don't think that comes anywhere near what the discussion was. But it's a small town, and one of the things we do is we keep track of each other. And unfortunately, you know, when the black Cadillac comes down Main Street, we're kind of thinking maybe we'll get a wave from the governor, but it's Paulette's car, and that's all right. I mean, that's not a problem. But I'm sure people keep track of me and how many coffees I buy at the store at the same time. But
Mr. Card, my point of reference though, is this, from what I understand, this has been going on for months and months and months. July 13th is a month and a half ago. I'm talking about the larger context. The larger context of these, why this body of requests, again, is it reasonable? Ma'am, can you address why it's reasonable? Forget that July 1st incident. How about July 1st a year ago? The complaints were then. Why were they reasonable then? If you can't, can anybody else here? Please help us. You're crippling our town.
You have to ask the people who are writing these, but you have written.
But you've written it, right?
So tell us about yours. Written any?
You have not written it.
No.
Okay, then I'm misinformed.
I don't even know half the public record requests that come in, I presume, unless they're addressed to the select board.
and we get copies on every one of them. So
I said, unless they're addressed to the select board.
we get a copy of every one of them.
And the open meeting
Ron would like to speak, but I did see Johanna's hand.
Oh, I'm good right now.
You're good? Okay. Ron?
This is not the point I really wanted to address, but because my name was just brought up in a certain way, I feel like I have to make a statement, a little defense. On July 1st, I submitted to this board, I laid at this board's feet a memorandum. And it was an ethics issue relative to Paulette. I'm not going to read the letter. I didn't report Paulette to the State Commission on Ethics, but she had used her position in a letter to representatives on a number of occasions relative to the Ashfield House as Paulette Lucart, Select Board member. And if I can't talk openly, and I filed this memo with this board, I have no way to question a person's ethics. And I said something outside of this letter, like, Paulette, what's going on here? I mean, everyone knows you're best friends with Suzanne Corbett and with Deb Nicholson, and yet all I asked you to do is file a public disclosure so I am not left guessing as to the relationship. What do? I am held to a standard in this town by very few people because it's not the way I normally work. The standard is high for me, but the paperwork is crazy. If Nina and I give some money to the town, a contribution, I go in there and I file a public disclosure because I don't want someone thinking I'm trying to curry favor with someone else in this town. I've probably filed 2 or 3 public disclosures. All I'm asking, over the last year and a half, there's this relationship that I'm just left guessing at, and I let the issue go to this point. I've let it go. But my name was just brought up in a way that makes it sound like I'm a peeping Tom or that I'm spying on people, and I don't take kindly to that. Now, separate from that, I want to say something that relates to the bigger issue here, and I'm not going to get too much into name calling, but I have seen over the last year and a half this going on and on and on. These very harmful emails. Emails that if I ever saw one of my employees talking to another employee, I would haul their butts into my office and say, you have no right to communicate with another person like that. My name has been dragged through the mud. I've been accused of gender bias. I've been accused of class bias. Character assassination, and you name it, a number of things. I go home at the end of a select board meeting after reading these emails, I sit on this side of the table. I can't jump down someone's throat. I can't call them a liar. I just take it. I go home, I have my glass of wine, and I sit there for 2 or 3 hours, kind of like in a trance or a meditation, because I can't go to bed. But these people, this handful of people, can hammer away. Now, the difference, I just received this tonight. I have no foreknowledge of this. The difference in this is these are my employees. I have a responsibility as a select board, 1 of 3 votes here. These are my employees. This, I haven't fully reread it. I take 2 or 3 times to read something. This is close to an harassment charge. And there is something in the law, for those of you who don't know it, they call it abuse of process. When people hide behind the law and they abuse a process, you can get what's called a cease and desist. I'm listening now, but ultimately, maybe the thing to do is go to town council and say, let's go. Let's stop this in its tracks and let's go. These are our employees. Some of these employees I've known since they've been kids. And I stand behind all of them. I really do. Any single one of them here, I will stand behind. And their integrity, their work ethic, and everything else is very dear to me. And they can do what they want to me. I ran for the position, God knows why. But whether they're elected or appointed, these are our employees, and they do a good job. I'm the town hall liaison, and I'm not championing their cause, but they're quality people. And I'm very concerned about this, and I have to go home and think about it, maybe with my glasses on.
Paulette, do you have anything to add? I've got a few thoughts, and I guess one of them, Ann, in your letter, you talked about you didn't feel that you had the support of the select board, and that is very difficult for me. But now just thinking about it over the last half hour, I'm thinking, geez, I go in and I say, you guys are doing a great job, keep your chin up, let's go. But it's time for some action. And I hope that's what you referred to. I mean, I hope you weren't referring that this entire select board wasn't supportive of the staff, because I think we really are. And I think it's a tremendous statement, testament of the number of people here that it seems like almost every single one of them, are behind each and every one of you, all 4 of you. Probably 110%, if not more. I wish I could come up with a long-term resolution to this problem, to this harassment, to this just ongoing problem that seems to consume the town of Ashfield. A couple of weeks ago, I said, if we can get through a selectmen's meeting without talking about the Ashfield house, we actually can get some work done. I mean, there was one night that I walked home and I said, we cut a hell of a swath tonight. We did all right. But those nights are very few and far between. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. And then beyond our little 4 or 5 hour stint every week, we're trying to do every other week now, you folks are on the front lines taking the 7 emails in 9 days, and when I get copied on them, and I'm not the only one. I mean, there's 10, 12, 15 people that are in the loop. If you think about the man hours that go into it, or person hours, person hours that go into it, I mean, I'm not any different than Ron. I generally have to read it 3 times, but there's pretty much a glass of wine each time. We need to find some type of resolution, and I've been putting quite a bit of thought into it. And I don't know that it needs to drag out. And it may not be a long-term way to resolve it. But I do think that the law, and I'm not a lawyer, thank heaven, but it does say that we need to respond to these complaints in 10 calendar days. And I feel that, and I would be glad to sign the response myself, but I think it can be a form letter saying, dear so-and-so, we are in receipt of your public document request dated, whatever the date is, period, and then go on to state that over the last 30 months, or whatever the time frame is, Our records show that we have replied and supplied you documents on 32 different occasions on very similar, if not the same topics. And at this point, the Select Board has directed the Town Hall staff to file your recent document request and to carry on with the business of the other 1,800 people in the town of Ashfield. So I make that in the way of a motion, but to discuss, to expand on it, I don't think it's a long-term solution. You know, that certainly the Attorney General would get involved, and that there could be a suit, and there could be this and that. But I believe that if we copied the Attorney General and the Secretary of State and Representative Kulik and Stan Rosenberg and a few others, and gave our representatives a full package of the baloney and the books in the back room, you're free to come in during hours. Well, there's 4, right? There's 4 big binders right there of all these. Are those just document requests, or are those document requests?
Two of them are public records, and 2 of them meetings. And those are my books. Others have to keep copies of material as well.
So certainly that could come back to haunt us. Now, what exactly the Attorney General would do, but I think that would be the impetus for maybe the laws being modified, as Dr. Robinson talked about. But, you know, what if I signed that letter and sent it out, or had the staff send it out, we wouldn't need 10 calendar days. We'd need 10 minutes to print that letter out, and we could move on with the rest of the business of the town. And God forbid that the Attorney General would, you know, decide that I need to, you know, that I should be punished and have to serve more time doing public service. So I'm going to lay that on the board as a motion, that that's the way that these should be handled for the short term, here on out until we come up with a different plan. There may or may not be a second, I understand that, but that's my position, and I think it may not crack the big nut, but I do think that it's a temporary solution, and it would free up our staff to close out last year's books and to get going on this year's stuff, and that's the thing that harms the town. That's huge, is that it displaces it. I'm not always so concerned about the work that goes into it, but we've got only so many hours, we voted so much money, and it was an increase over what we've had in the past in time and money and so on and so forth, and it displaces all the work of all the people that people depend on in the town of Ashfield. I mean, I came in here yesterday, and town clerk's got lots to do. Elderly gentleman came in, had a bunch of paperwork, she sat with him, got through it, did the whole deal. I mean, that's what we have a town office for, to take care of our customers. Take care of our customers, which is all of you and all your relatives and all your friends that don't happen to be here tonight.
Tom, I'll second the motion just to get it on the table for discussion.
Thank you.
I'd like to throw something out, means of discussion.
Anne's had her hand up 3 times while I was babbling on.
I just want to add the following. This is not about character assassination, but it is about transparency. And this is what I have received as an open meeting law complaint from Deborah Nicholson from June 2013. And attached to as supporting documentation are 2 sent emails. And blind copied on the sent emails is Paulette's personal email. One was sent to me. And I have two different emails indicating you are receiving blind copies of vehicles from Deborah Nicholson in relation to town business on your personal email.
Could I ask you what you mean by personal email?
Do you want me to read it to you? Amherst.edu.
Tom,
Ron,
maybe you would accept as a friendly amendment to the front end of your motion to review with town council the formulation of the letter, blah, 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 blah. I just think getting her input, because Donna McNichols has seen similar behavior on FERCog side and on the Franklin County housing side. And I think her input, though I'm not looking to champion or further their cause, her input would be very valuable to the formulation of that template letter, rather than you just do it yourself and cast caution to the wind. So that's what I'm looking for you to do, if you're willing to.
my issue with that
Yeah.
is not that I don't think Donna would give us an opinion. My issue is that she probably would. And I think if we went to town council, and although this letter is within 10 days, the response, we might say, you know, Donna may say, well, somewhere in here, you know, the response could be this or this. The heart of my motion is that I'm not really concerned. We need to free up some time. We have to make a statement that enough is enough. And just like I spoke to both of you 2 weeks ago, is that if they need to go another route to take care of whatever it is they're trying to take care of, do it. Do it. Because we got, hey, remember way back after town meeting, we made a whole list of things that we wanted to accomplish, you know, short-term things.
Absolutely.
And, you know, after a discussion of this, after about so long, you know, who wants to take care of any of the business of the town? And I'm talking about writing just a polite letter. You know, just a polite letter saying, you know, we are in receipt. The staff has been directed to file, you know, your request and move on and explain that there are all these other people in town that depend on services that need to be supplied, and we need to move forward with that.
Okay.
And I have no doubt that town council will get plenty of action after that. I mean, that's my position on it. It's a little strong, but Paulette, you want to talk about the motion and the second? The motion that's on the table?
I have nothing to add to that.
I can't hear again.
I'm sorry. I have nothing to add to what he said.
Well, we got a motion. We did have a second.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
Once you vote, can I hear the reason from each of you why you voted the way you did, please? Because I think we deserve that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, this is a board vote. We always appreciate the enthusiasm. Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
So that passed, that motion passed, and I'll come in and work, and we'll get a letter formulated and make that work. Any other discussion on this about how to handle all this business? I mean, I really appreciate all you folks coming in. Nina, you're behind the pole.
Sorry, Nina Kohler, Bailey Road. I just wondered if maybe it takes more of town personnel time to do this, but could we, at the same time that you're doing this, be more proactive
and go to the Attorney General with all of this stuff and present our case and get a cease and desist. And maybe Donna could tell us whether that's something you can do. I don't know.
I agree.
I just feel like we need to be more proactive. We need to fight this.
Well, I mean, that did run through my mind as maybe a long-term solution, is just to turn all this nasty business in total. The emails, the document requests about health agents that were 3 or 4 times ago, that, 4 or 5 years ago, $2,500 grant money, all these things that get talked about, and just turn the whole thing over to the state and say, please, come investigate it. It would be huge for me on this select board to get that off the table so we can talk about other things. And if the state won't do it, I wonder if the feds wouldn't do it. Dr. Ryan?
Yeah. It makes me uncomfortable to be called Dr. Robinson. I'm afraid somebody's going to want their appendix out. Don is good.
But maybe some anesthesia after this meeting.
Punching a nose or whatever. I like the simplicity of your response, which is, the context is this. We are a democracy here, a town that governs itself democratically, and we're caught in a situation that is making it almost impossible for us to perform the functions of government under these circumstances. We're trying to find a way to resume democratic government in this town and not be tied up by what various signs indicate is a minority of folks in town who have legal rights, heaven knows, but they are a minority in town. We're trying to figure that out, how you live with those things. What you're saying, the letter you're proposing to send.
We voted. We will be sending it.
The letter you're sending would be a simple letter, a reply to those who have submitted this request saying, we can't do it, and giving the reasons. We've got 1,800 people to serve. We can't devote any more time to this particular cause. Now, that will, as you say, that will set off all kinds of responses. And it may be that there will be responses from the Attorney General's office or whatever other commissions and so on and so forth. We will then have to defend what we're doing as a town. You all, for us, will be defending what you're doing. It seems to me that's the way we want to go. And the reason I suggested talking to legislators is that they have some responsibility, political responsibility, for what's going on here, and for clarifying the guidance that state law gives us in such a circumstance. But what I liked about the approach that you have offered and that the board has adopted is its simplicity. And it's simply saying, we've gone as far as we can go on this one, and we are going to get about the rest of our business. See what happens. See where the response comes from. And we'll all go to prison together.
Cheers, son. Nice to see you. I was wondering if you were still there.
Yeah.
Dale's head's still there.
I just want to remind the board that I heard from the employees that or I've heard from people and townspeople that there are several issues before us. So one is the issue of these requests for public information. The other is the question about the ethics, question of whether there is a violation by a member of the select board for the ethics statute. The ethics statute is a very important statute. I have to comply with it as a member of the fire department. We all do. And I haven't gotten any satisfactory answers to the questions asked about it. So I think that the board needs to address those questions. It seems that there's a question about disclosure of relationships and involvement in whether, there's been communications outside of meetings and so on. I would just like, Paulette, I would like you to be able to just respond to those so that we would know, so that there wouldn't be a question about an ethics violation. But right now there is, because we haven't gotten any answers. So I guess I'm asking the board still needs to address that's a very serious concern.
That at all. I think you bring up a good issue, and it's probably something that we would have to take up. We really should be staying with somewhere near the agenda where we're talking about the office staff and handling these complaints and how to handle those. I really appreciate you all coming in. We have a long agenda tonight. I don't know if we'll have the energy or the willpower to get through it all, but we are going to be taking a couple weeks before our next meeting, and it actually will be 28 days before I'm at a meeting. But I've been thinking about, it's funny how things happen and you get thinking about it, and a month ago now, almost a month ago, many of us that were in this room, they had a wonderful party down to Edge Hill about the 250th anniversary of the church. And God knows that, you know, there was a cash bar, and there was music, and there was good food, and Tom Carter was not looking to really talk about politics. But what came, and I think what will be the legacy of this era, is that 5 people came up to me and said, when we have to suffer through so much of this, you know, just everything being watched and questioned and just all the requests and so forth, why in the world should I or anyone else volunteer to serve the town of Ashfield? That will be the legacy of this whole era. And what's particularly stunning is the 5 people that said that to me have all, in one capacity or another, served, have made good decisions, have been honorable people who have stood up and said, you know, even if they were outvoted, they said that was okay, you know, and come to agreement and move the town forward. And I think that, I guess I just wanted to share that with you, that I thought that is a very key point in this whole era that, you know, has started. I think one of the key points we discussed that Ann brought up tonight is, and I'm thinking you're going by calendar year, but in 2012 calendar year, there were 33 requests and we're only 7 months into 13 and there's already 55.
Oh, my Lord. And that does not include open meeting law violation complaints.
That's just document requests, not open meeting law violations and that sort of thing. So I'd like to move on. Go ahead,
One more repeat, not to have my appendix out. The idea of bullying, which I was unaware, brings immediacy to this, and thank you, Selectboard, for taking immediate action. The bullying is absolutely unacceptable. We see it in any number of contexts. We think outside of our town. It's happening in our town. It's unreasonable. These are good people. I have another solution. For those of you who don't have the strength, the belief in your own reasonable actions, if you can't articulate them before this group, here's another selection. Stop! Stop right now, and let's get on with the business of our town.
Ladies, thank you so much for bringing this up. And, the next on our agenda, and I spied him earlier to talk about a different matter, is David Newell. Is David still here?
Indeed.
Finance Committee, a letter to the Franklin Tech Superintendent.
Okay, I apologize for not getting this out. But I'm always
Volunteers, right?
Let me just ask, give me a quick second and then I'll make up this quick and easy as possible.
Folks, we're still in a meeting and we'd like to be able to communicate with David, so we're not here till 2.
This pertains to a vocational student residency issue that we previously addressed some months ago. And so we got clarification and a reduction in tuition charge for $8,000. The response, the letter that you sent under your name, Tom, is appended here. It's on the bottom of page 1 and page 2. So that's history, and I'm just bringing it to his attention. I'll let you take 20 seconds to read the very brief letter that I recommend the board send to Superintendent Leverty. Okay. We have, what this is we're asking him to take a second look at it. We have reason to believe that student may have moved earlier. Your original request of the superintendent was that he discuss this with both the mother and the father. He did discuss it with the mother, and so you're respectfully requesting a little more careful look. At stake is up to $8,000 additional dollars. All we're really looking for is the truth. Not that anybody's being deceitful, but in cases like this, sometimes there's two worldviews, and I think it's not up to me, I don't think it's up to the board, I think it's up to the superintendent to look at this and get a lock on it. Worst case analysis, it ends there. It is December. That's when the move was made. So we all did due diligence in asking him to take a careful look at it. Best case analysis is that there'll be a greater clarity, and we will end up paying only what we should be paying. And that's really what this is all about.
Did you draft this as part of the finance committee or the ad hoc school committee?
Well, we're still in limbo. This is a task. The finance committee is continuing to, within its statutory responsibilities, address and serve in a recommending capacity on these town financial matters. Finance committee appointed me as sort of a, Ted, can you help me on this? Lead in, designate, point man, and will remind you that, again, we don't have anything formally constituted yet, but I am working with Poppy Doyle, who is one of our two Mohawk school reps. So that's,
and what was Poppy's position on this?
that we should do this.
Okay. Here's my position on it. I mean, you would be feeling terrible leaving if you didn't think that I had a position.
I would be feeling terrible.
I believe that you were absolutely on the ball to clarify this. I think that, they came up with, an answer for us that we knew was fairly obvious, that at some point during the year the child changed. On the other hand, we have no reason to believe that that the student didn't reside in Ashfield at the beginning of the semester? At the beginning of the school year?
I beg to differ.
At the beginning of the school year?
I beg to differ.
Well, that certainly wasn't the position we went after to begin with. I mean, I just think we have cooperation, we did get an $8,000 reduction, and it was a great effort, and it yielded great results, especially for being a catch-up type position, right? Because nobody was paying attention to these things at all prior to that. Prior to that. So when we have somebody that is cooperating with us
I don't see this.
And working with us to try to come up with what they feel is right, I think it's water over the dam, and I think you and Poppy are doing a great job trying to position ourselves early so we can keep track of it. That's just my position on it, but I certainly don't want to alienate the superintendency or the office at Franklin Tech any more than I would at Mohawk, any more than I would at Smithville. And
I understand.
And I just wonder a second request after there was a prompt response and a clarification that yielded us an $8,000 reduction, if that's appropriate. But that's just one position on the select board.
I would think that what counts the most is ascertaining what the truth of the matter is. Your request, at our recommendation, your request in the April letter to him was, would you kindly contact both parents? Usually in situations like this, where we're dealing with separations or divorce, there's two worldviews as to what's going on, and two stories. I think your request back in April, which was, would you kindly discuss this with the student's parents? What he did do was discuss it with one parent. Now I'm going to look you in the eye and say, I have reason to believe that the move occurred prior to them. But I think you're right. I think we've got to respect his final answer. I think this is a very respectful letter, just simply saying, would you be willing to check with both parents on this so that we know? And I think if you fail to do that, you would be remiss in your fiduciary responsibilities to the town. That's David Newell of the Finance Committee speaking.
Yeah, that's fine. Like I said, Paulette?
Yes. I support what Dave Newell's trying to do, is just to gently ask them one more time if this was accurate, check with both parents. It may come back exactly the same.
And if it did, I'd support that.
And it's fine, it may come back different, but it doesn't hurt to say, would you just please double check? It's money for the town, so.
Ron?
I think if you, I agree with Paulette. I think if you closed with something just a little more personal, something that said, kindly forgive the something of this letter. It's not easy for us to come to you in this way. Humble yourself just a little bit more on this, but we have reason to believe, and I trust in your reason to believe. And it's not a matter of weeks, right, David? You have reason to believe. It's a matter of months. Isn't that correct? It's not the difference between November and December. And I don't want to know exactly what it is, but multiple months would certainly concern me. I just think in your closing, he could be a little tired of you. And if you just humbled yourself a little bit there, it might go a long way, and he'd say, yeah, he's got a point.
Mary, shall you and I confer as to how to add a little saccharin to this to make it go? And then I'll give you an electronic.
Well, we need
there can be no sweeter
What's that?
individuals to craft the letter than Mary Fitzgibbon did.
sweet and sour chicken.
I never once have heard Mary Fitzgibbon referred to as sour.
No, that's not what I'm.
Who has signed this in the past, David?
Thomas Carter.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that you and Mary work on crafting a letter based on the comments at this table and draft it for Tom's signature.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? No abstentions? It's fine.
We have a vocational advisory committee in about 10 days with our friends from colleagues from Charlemont, Plainfield, and Holly, and we will be preparing for the upcoming year and busing and all of that. I'll keep you posted. Pardon?
What date is that?
I don't remember. Around the 14th. It'll be posted here. I have it posted in December.
Beautiful.
The meeting will be in Plainfield. The meeting will be in Plainfield when you're not welcome.
Oh, I never welcome in Plainfield.
Thank you, Ron.
Take care. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thanks, Paula.
Yep. Doug, multi-hazard mitigation plan. We had a copy of that last week.
You had a copy of it, and it's not the right one.
It's not the right one.
I mean, we had to add some of the things. If you notice where it's in red, that's what it's in.
Is this a...
This is not the plan. The plan will end up at about 160 pages when it's all done. I have a meeting tomorrow at 9 o'clock with Mary, how do you say it, Mary Vargas?
Mary Krause?
In Burkhardt. And she will be working with me on this. She has had MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management Association agency, give her some pointers on what we should change. This year, I was just changed on all of our, mainly what we have to think about when it comes time for the, wait, let me get my copy so I know what I'm talking about. I guess I didn't bring it. Anyhow, those are just the changes that we have to have. Like one of them, it says we should come up with a notification plan for our town. And I put in, it's been done on June 2011. This is what has to be in there. And I've added not on that, but throughout the plan where our recreation, it had, the only thing it had on our recreation was DAR State Forest and 170 some odd acres of chapel ledges. I added the 286 acres of the Bear Swamp Reservation and 268 of the Bullet Reservation. I've added to that. Things like that we've had to add to it. But I will sit down with her. Alan's not here. I gotta add Alan's open space plan into that. So when it's all done, I'll give you a copy of it. It's nothing that you people have to sign. You have to say, yes, we accept it, and put it on your letterhead. Then it goes to MEMA. And if they accept it, then it goes to the feds.
And all along the way, people are actually going to read it.
I'm not going to comment on that one. But yeah, they're supposed to. And they, I mean, we did it in, Bill had to do it in 2008. And this is good for 5 years once we get it all done.
And this makes us eligible for MEMA and FEMA reimbursement.
It makes it eligible, so if we have a disaster, like a hurricane or something like that.
Or a lot of rain when Bear Swamp Reservation starts heading towards Townsend.
Yeah, like that happened that day. That will give us the okay to be able to put in for a mitigation grant. That's what it's all about. Is to give the town authorization.
So are you looking for a vote, or you're working?
No, we're still working on it.
Your meeting to
I meet
polish
with
the
her
doorknobs
tomorrow,
on it.
and then once I meet with her tomorrow, we'll get as much as we can done, and then I'll have to wait till Alan gets the open space plan done, so we can put it all into the plan and send it out.
Is there a deadline?
Yes.
And it's
The
passed?
deadline was July 31st, 2013. I talked with Nima.
December 30?
No, July. Today. I talked with Nima, and they said to me, don't worry about it. We're so far behind that you may get the results back in December. So they're not, I mean, they want us to get it in as soon as we can. yes.
When are you aiming to get it in, Doug?
I would like to say I could have it all ready, except for Alan's open space plan, Friday. So we can.
By when?
By this coming Friday. But I gotta make sure Alan's open space plan is done.
I wonder a lot about this stuff, but I wonder if it would be best to send a letter or to at least request an email from whoever you're talking to at NEMA, just to put that in writing. Just say that we've missed the deadline, we know we've missed the deadline, we're working on it feverishly, and we would like an extension on this till October 1st. And then if they can reply in the affirmative, we'll have that.
Well, and you might include, per our discussion on whatever day, that we've indicated that we knew this was happening, and then all that you said. So when you write to them, you're actually confirming that they did say something to you.
I think that would be a little tippy tapping on an email, and just so they can reply and say.
So we can send it to Bob Berry from NEMA. He's our representative.
Ron, what do you think?
My issue is sometimes that doesn't work, that if you're looking for a formal confirmation, they're put in an awkward position because they didn't go out to everybody with an extension, whereas if you have a relationship and someone has told you that, and with this close to it, because I happen to know Alan's this
very close.
Just push it over the top. We've been waiting on this for at least a year on Alan's side, and he's working with a lot of boards and stuff. I'd probably remain quiet on this and not force their hand to say, yeah, you have an extension this long. That'd be my choice.
Well, they can always choose not to reply.
Yeah, but they might reply in a way you don't want to hear.
FERCog has already sent the plan that we talked with the whole, there was, you weren't here, Tom, there was Norm Russell, myself, Les Gavin, Mary was with us, Tom Poisson, Duncan was with us. We sat down with her, remember?
Yeah.
I think anyhow. And we came up with this plan. And she sent that already to me. And that's what they have come back with, a few comments. So they already know that we're working on it.
So you feel that your contact at FERCog is, and obviously working with other communities?
Yeah, she's working with, she's got a grant to work with every community in Franklin County. Every single town in Franklin County. And they're all the same as we are. They're all up against it. And I think she said she sent one in, fully done, in December. And she hasn't heard a word yet. That's how backed up they are. She hasn't even found out whether they are going to approve it or anything.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm not married to chasing it if we think we're going to have it done by Labor Day.
I think, oh yeah, I know our part will, and I'm very sure Alan's will. And we'll have it done, I hope, at least by the end of July, end of August, it'll be done. Hopefully.
Let's hope we can put that on the agenda for the 28th to say yeehaw.
Ron, do you think a different type of email, just not pointing out there was a conversation or anything, just said, we'll be sending our documents in soon?
Yeah.
So you at least did sort of say, yeah, I know it's the date, I haven't just blown it off, and
We're actively working on it.
and we hope to get it in soon, so they don't have to reply, but we've got something on record that
That'd be
we
good.
are.
That'd be good.
Would that work?
Okay.
You understand that?
Mary, work with me on that, and we can get something off that way, it goes off on the town.
It doesn't have to come from the select board, it's best that it comes from you.
And it just, a little cover
Lets
that
them know
we
where to
know
wait.
we're doing it, but we're not asking any,
Yeah.
you know, the
Yep.
point you made.
Okay,
Anything else, Doug?
yeah, you got one more thing. Not on that end, so no.
We have something,
No.
Yeah.
EMPG
Oh, okay.
grant to
Not on
sign,
that.
and Doug, you said that,
Emergency
volunteer-
management planning grant.
Right. Mary, you got that?
I do.
This is a grant that, well, when I was fire chief, I got it every year. Emergency management's get it every year. And last year, I remember, we all three signed this thing, and it all had to come back because there was too many
Yes.
signatures and all this stuff on it. Well, what this is a $2,030 in-kind grant.
2030.
2030. It's an in-kind grant that all it is paperwork and we'll have it. I put in for one mobile radio, one tablet, so that we can take the tablet out, either Kyle or myself, out in the field, an emergency, and be able to talk, tablet, yes, and be able to talk into it and bring it back to the station and download it and send it to, if we're in a state of emergency, we could send it right into FEMA. I mean,
We mean if you could take a movie or do something.
right. And the third one is we're getting a GPS. Because the fire,
To do what?
to put out, to let everybody know where the emergency was. And right now we have none. So that'll pick it up. And I know, Paula, you made a remark about that small generator. I looked into that, and I had a couple of the E&D say, no, don't do that.
Okay.
Do it a liability.
Oh.
Say if we bring that small Honda generator into somebody's house, and they plug something that's not supposed to be that size generator, and they pop the refrigerator or pop something, then we're liable for it.
What this stemmed from was when we had the hurricane, Irene, and there was a household with a person who was on oxygen and would have to have some electricity to keep that going. There was discussion about, did we have a generator we could bring out there? So then we were talking about, oh, maybe we should have a few more.
I thought it was a good idea too when you said it, I really
Yeah.
did. And then
Yeah.
they said, well, like the generator, that oxygen thing takes, I guess, a lot of power, I don't know.
That's a good point.
So they kind of said, well, not really, but it's still something we can look into next year.
No, it's okay. I mean, it was a good point.
We could look into it more and find out, okay, does that just have to be a food court?
It would be better probably to get the person to wherever the shelter is.
Yeah.
Because the shelter, you plug into whatever the.
But anyhow, what this is on your sheet that you have in front of you now. It's got the authorized signature's name,
Yeah.
which on the contract is mine. My name.
Oh, that's right. We authorized you, weren't we?
Yeah. And I don't know if the contract, got the contract or not.
So you're the authorized signatory?
See, the contract reads, Town of Ashfield, Managing Director, Business Field.
Yeah.
And where we got moved up last year was we all signed it, and they kicked it right back to us. And so what they're saying is if, have my name here, authorized signature, Tom signed it, that he's the chair, authorizing me to sign, that's what it's all about.
So this is from a year ago. So does anybody have a problem with this, signing this? Authorize Doug to get the money and the stuff?
I move that the chair sign the paperwork authorizing Doug to sign for the emergency management planning grant.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's good, unanimous.
Thank you. I gotta have Ann notarize it and all this stuff.
I have well, she's very good. She's very calm with
Tom, I have a question for Doug, if I can ask him.
Yes, absolutely.
We received this in the email from the Commonwealth of Mass, grant applications for pre-disaster mitigation, flood mitigation, FEMA programs. It's the same one we get every year. And it says what type of work is eligible. It says stormwater drainage, culvert improvements, property acquisition, slope stabilization, infrastructure protection, seismic wind, and it goes on. I mean, we have so much of this sort of thing associated with the outfall from the lake to Buckland Road. Anyways, is there? I'm always trying to figure out which side of the line this relates to. Whether it's Tommy more than you.
It would relate to like what Tom Poisson and I were talking about, rerouting the dam spillway and getting some bigger culverts for where some of these roads wash out that, like Irene, they would not allow Tom to put in a bigger culvert.
No, it
They
had
had
to
to
be
put the same one.
in kind of replacement, yeah.
That is what that's all about.
But
I'm
when-
going to work with Tom and
This has September 27th on it as a deadline. And I'm just thinking, we're sitting in a perfect position, but because we meet every other week now, you know, that this time will go by real fast. And if there's so many trees growing up in there and issues that relate to that I would think from an emergency management point of view, it clearly falls beneath your purview. And Tom, the same thing, you know, with, so it's an open.
we can get this grant. We can put this out exact same way as this is.
But this is big dollars, is what
I
I'm
know
saying.
that, but we can, it has to go back the same way as this.
So are you gonna work with
I'm
Tom
gonna
on
work with
that?
Tom and we were gonna see what we can do. I hadn't thought about that side of it.
Yeah.
But that's something we can look at.
And I probably should have thought to talk to you about it. I did talk to Tom about that within a day or two of when it came out. We talked about whether we could take advantage of it right now. His feeling was that we couldn't on this one. They do come around.
But this is perfect now, but maybe not that.
I just wanted to let you know, I'm not making a decision. I'm just saying that I did have the conversation with Tom.
We can, I'll talk to Tom and as you say, that is under the emergency manager.
I mean, I would, if the board wanted, I would, last year we kind of let it go by us. We weren't proactive. We should take shots at these grants because we need to do the maintenance. We're working on the dam now.
That is a 75% with the 25 match.
Well, hey, I'll take 75 cents on the dollar any day and make an argument for the 25 cents.
Hey, we jumped over 27 cents out of the dollar, right? For the solar deal.
I mean, if you need my shoulder, I'd be glad if the board had me do that. I'd be glad to get involved. I have some issues with the month of September, so I have a very narrow window. But
We're gonna
if you and Tommy,
in the middle of September also.
The deadline on that is
September 27th.
So we got a whole month of August.
But it's got to be long tearing. I want to take him up on it before he thinks good. All those in favor say aye. You're in, Ron?
I'm in. I will
go for
we'll
it.
get together.
Jump all over it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. For what? I don't know.
Well, it's going to be great. We wore out Alan Rice again.
Yes, we did.
He's gone. Okay, old business.
We'll bring it back.
Old business. Mary, you have some goodies for me?
And I do.
Attorney General extension, is that in here?
Yep, and
You have to sign it?
Yeah.
so,
That's not this here.
where's it?
So, first one, 4A. Okay. Labels.
We'll get to the letters.
All right. So 4A, Attorney General extension to respond to complaint filed July 5th, received by the Select Board on July 8th. So this is just a letter that Donna McNichol sent in.
Yes, to get us to
She
this
sent
date.
in, says our office is in receipt of your request dated July 11th, seeking an extension of time for the Ashfield Board of Selectmen, Select Board, it should be the Ashfield Select Board, to consider its response to a complaint that alleges a violation of open meeting law. The complaint was originally received by the board on July 8th. Our office hereby grants the request for an extension because the meeting of the board of July 29th, at which it will address the complaint, occurs outside the 14 business day period of time in which to consider proposed remedial action prescribed by the statute. Please provide the complaint or the board's response to the complaint by Friday, August 2nd, and forward a copy of both the complaint and its response to our office. So there's a code, yeah, it's gone. So there's
Trying to keep the bugs out.
Is she?
She'll be back in a minute.
They should be in order there, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm looking, I got the 4A, that we got the extension.
That's the extension for one of
All
the
right, so
complaints
where's-
that we'll answer tonight.
Okay, so there's a letter here that actually responds to it.
There is, but what I did is I thought I would have us get the 2 extensions out and into the record so that we have them for both of them. And then we'll move to the responses one at a time.
Okay, well,
And then
4B,
there's some new items.
4B, it says the same thing. This is from,
But that is for the
these are
other
from the Attorney General
Mhm.
to Donna McNichol as our attorney, who asked for the extensions.
So the first one was an extension for us to respond to Kachina Urian's complaint.
Yeah, see, it didn't say that.
It doesn't say that, but it
Yeah.
does say July 5th, which is the only indicator. And the second one is the Attorney General's extension for the board to reply
The
to
complaint.
Suzanne Corbett's July 9th open meeting law violation
So-
complaint.
We have to have these answers back to the complainant by Friday, August 2nd. So both of the extensions were granted. Okay, so the letters are, right here,
Next one, C, would be
4C.
response to Kachina Urian, and actually I was rushing and they're put together a little bit and there's some extra copies there. But the,
There's a
There's a
copy
response
for
to-
each of us and one to sign, is that
yes, so whatever you like, you can read along. There is, I probably should have kept one myself. There's, in the Kachina Urian packet, there's the response to Kachina, and then there's also the notification that goes to the AG at the same time.
it? So the response, this is, as we did it last time, since we had town council, it's got her signature and then it'll have mine as the chair. If we approve it, it says, "Dear Ms. Urian, the Select Board received an open meeting law complaint from you on July 8th, dated July 5th. The Select Board requested and was granted an extension to answer the complaint by August 2nd by the Office of the Attorney General, Division of Open Government. We would like to take this opportunity to respond to that complaint as required. In summary, you allege that the Ashfield Select Board violated the open meeting law on June 3rd when they adopted the meeting minutes of January 16th. These are both 2013. When they adopted the meeting minutes of January 16th by failing to include in their January 16th minutes the scheduled appointment, presence, and discussion with you. A review of the January 16th meeting minutes available in the minute book on June 13, and posted to the town website July 2nd confirms that your appointment, presence, and discussion were not included in the minutes. The Ashfield Select Board will amend the minutes at their next scheduled meeting to correct this error. Please see Exhibit A, the meeting minutes amendment. We hope that this letter addresses your concerns. So the amendment.
And so the amendment is on the inside cover of that folder I gave you. See to your left, Exhibit A.
Proposed Exhibit A. Appendix A. This is kind of a long little addition.
Well, you could,
Kachina Urian, Main Street resident. Urian explained to the board her concern regarding some previous select board minutes. She would like the minutes of October 10th and October 17th, both of 12, reviewed and amended to show comments that she made during the public comment portion of those meetings. Lukart suggests that she believes the minutes of November 7th are also of concern to Urian. Lukart offered to review the recordings of the meetings and prepare an agenda for the amendment of minutes for the meetings in question. Lukart states that she would review meeting recordings for the 10th, 17th, and 7th of November and send amendments to Mary for inclusion. Kohler cautions that a next review may not happen right away as staff is currently dealing with many open meeting law complaints and public records requests, along with regular business. Hasn't changed much. Kohler suggests that Urian might consider a letter to the select board. A letter will become part of the document that's attached to the minutes and will allow her exact comments to become part of the record. Urian says that she feels the omissions are intentional. So this is, you've got so many dates in here, but this is actually minutes of January 16th that we're trying to include that was actually discussed was the minutes of October 10th, October 17th, and November 7th. I mean, if this is what happened, I mean, I'm fine with it. I can move on, but it just seems like...
there are two. There's one with another sentence.
There's two versions, because if you hold it to the light, so town council gave us two versions to choose from by the years.
Except there's another sentence.
It's an issue goes beyond the public comments. The bigger picture is the issues of the Ashfield House.
And that was taken from the recording.
Folks, you were here, I wasn't. Pick one.
If we're going to make the amendment to the minutes, I would go with the longer one just for completeness. If town council listened to the second one.
Which one is the longer one?
Well, I'm going by when I hold it up to the light. It's good.
Yeah.
More words. Then I would go for the one that has more to satisfy the issue.
I got two of these letters, also from Donna, which isn't the Appendix A, and I was just wondering, they look the same, but I'm wondering if they're different.
Which letters are
There
those?
were these, just with the signature, with the town stamp on it, and, I mean, the one that Tom read out, but why would I get two of them unless there were two different ones?
They might have snuck in when
But
I told them.
as I hold them up to the light, I don't see a difference, so, you know, they
And
look.
I mentioned I was rushing and I made a number of copies, maybe 2 copies there. I probably should have held on to the folder and kind of parceled it out.
They do look identical, don't they, Ron? In the light?
I wish you wouldn't do this as town council. I wish you'd give us a
Actually,
recommendation.
that's my fault, not town council's
Okay.
fault.
But I'll go with Paulette on this if she thinks it's better to read the longer one. As I said, when we sent this out to town council, I didn't really have an opinion on it. I said, let's just see what town council recommends. So I'm fine with it. I'm not gonna fight her recommendation, and if Paulette wants to do the long going, I'm fine with that too.
She listened to the recording and typed something up, is what I gathered she did.
I don't know, she had me put together, whenever town council works on it, she has to get all the material from us, and then I'm going to tell her that there's a recording, I send her some material, and then she does what she does.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So now you're
But
gonna make
this sounds like what happened.
Yes.
I mean, that's what I said originally.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it sounded to me originally like she had listened to the recording and just, it's almost verbatim type stuff.
And she probably went for the key points that Kachina was.
I guess this is what I have a hard time wrapping my arms around is that I thought there was really something substantive to this, that, you know, maybe there was a motion or a decision made, but it doesn't seem as though there were. And it was just a matter of the minutes not being approved and being, I mean, it just was a dragged out thing when it gets into so many, I mean, here we are amending the minutes to reflect that there was a discussion about other minutes that needed to be amended.
And Jen was the scribe at that point, and I don't, you know, it was on the agenda at the time, but maybe she felt that there wasn't I haven't talked to her in a long time.
So if you guys are all right with that, we can get this off our table. So what there is a motion to send the response and to accept and amend the minutes of January 16th that were approved on July 5th. No,
June 3rd, I think.
June 3rd. All right, we want the red set of minutes.
Right, the minutes were done originally by Jen, I believe they came to the board and were sent.
Right, they were
Back and
January
then they came back
16th,
and-
we're amending the January 16th minutes
This board did it on June
that
3rd.
were approved on June 3rd. We're adding this appendix. All right?
That's right.
That refers to the
Minutes of,
October 10th, October 17th, and November 7th.
which was, I believe, what Paulette remembered also needed to be amended at that point. Right.
So we'll do two things. We'll approve the response and the addition of this appendix to the minutes that we just discussed.
Correct.
That's my motion.
Seconded.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
I think the only thing we should do is take this longer set of Appendix A and perhaps alter the proposed to accepted.
Oh, yes, no, I did, sorry, I could have put draft across, this is.
No, that's okay. I think if we just write it on it, then it doesn't have to be retyped or anything, but this is the one that we can get.
Heaven forbid we not add it to the document.
We will.
And we include the appendix.
The appendix will go.
Itself gets
Yes.
included. No, but the appendix itself gets added to the minutes.
Yes, and the appendix really will also get added to the package sent to Regina and to the AGO.
So in the long run, somebody going out to the web for those minutes would find this appendix attached and people should be able to
Did I
read
just
it.
sign the right one?
You did, you signed you, not where Donna will sign.
No, but it's the right.
And it is, this is the response to Kachina, and then you also have the AGO one there as well. And I'm going to grab something.
Oh, the Attorney General's, yes.
Yeah, I think Mabel, the package goes, if you don't want my page over here.
There.
These notes. And I would like to clarify that.
We're going to take a couple-minute bio break. How's this?
So maybe I could just mention that the minutes that the board did on June 3rd were sent out by Lynn the following week, and for some reason, I think there was a problem with the computer here, which does
Oh,
sort of
the
has
consent
happened.
charter, yeah.
And
You sent my email.
we kept looking for them, we didn't see them. I emailed Charlie on June 24th saying that Lynn had mailed them more than a week before, actually about 10 or 11 days before, and, you know, could he confirm that he has them and could he get them up? He said he would, then we kept checking, and I saw on July 2nd that they weren't there, so I got copies and did it. I hadn't done it before that because he was going to take care of it. But just to clarify that, and they went into the book at the same time that you sent them off to him. I just would like to have it be clear that they were not missing from the book, which is the legal place for all that time, which is an assertion in the open meeting law violation
So
complaint.
Kachina's going to get a copy of this letter. She's going to get a copy of the accepted appendix, so she knows it's going in, and we'll make sure that the accepted appendix becomes part of the minutes of January 16th and also out on the web, so if somebody goes out there, they can see it.
We'll just add that to the legal book here, and then we'll ask for it to be
Rescan it in to post it up to the web again,
edited.
so that would be there. And then people can go see it, and I think that will help satisfy people looking for that information.
I guess I lost track. You mean to add the appendix?
Add this, if this appendix were added also out on the web, they go look at the web, it's there. People, you know, we already know what's going to be in the book, and then people don't have to come look at the book. It's out on the web, and that's fine. So it's having to look it up, and he can repost that, I'm sure.
All right, so the next one is a response to Suzanne's. Right there. Trying to stay ahead of you. The Ashfield paper clips. I must have had a sale on standing paper clips.
I don't like this to fall out of a very thick folder, sorry.
The select board received the open meeting complaint from you dated July 9th. Requested an answer to the complaint by August 2nd. The Attorney General got the opportunity to respond. In summary, you allege that the select board violated the open meeting law on the 16th, January 16th, and June 3rd by failing to include in their January 16th minutes the scheduled appointment, presence, and discussion with Ms. Urian. You further allege the select board violated the open meeting law on June 3rd when accepting the minutes of January 16th by not including this information in the minutes. A review of the January 16th meeting minutes available on the town website as of July 2nd confirms that Ms. Urian's appointment, presence, and discussions were not included in the minutes. The Ashfield Select Board will amend the minutes at their meeting scheduled, at their next scheduled meeting to correct this error. Please see Exhibit A, which is going to have to be the same Exhibit A that we just did, the meeting minutes amendment. You also allege the Select Board violated the open meeting law because the meeting minutes for the 16th of January approved on June 3rd were not available until July 3rd. On the town website. These minutes were available in the minute book on June 13th.
The one thing I was surprised that Donna didn't put in there is that the website is not the legal posting site. The open meeting law has to do with the legalities.
I think it's inferred just because she refers to the book.
That's probably true.
And were posted to the website on July 2nd. As you may be aware, the Select Board has hired a municipal clerk specifically to work on and catch up the meeting minutes. The municipal clerk is in attendance at the meeting. The minutes are usually presented for board approval at their next meeting. However, when the municipal clerk is unable to attend a meeting, she must listen to the tape of the meeting to create the minutes. This process takes a bit longer. In addition, the clerk is working diligently to catch up on any minutes that have not yet been drafted or approved pursuant to Mass General laws. These minutes are being created and approved in a timely manner given the serious backlog of minutes and how expeditiously the town is working to resolve this issue. In addition, you have complained that the Ashfield Select Board has violated the open meeting law because there are meeting minutes missing from the minute book. The Select Board is reviewing the minute book, and as stated above, the municipal clerk is working diligently to catch up any minutes that have not yet been drafted or approved. The minute book will be complete in the near future. Pretty near future.
We always, it's near.
Yes, should be an assistant municipal clerk.
No, actually, there's a point, and I did notice it when I got the letter.
What's that?
Did it say I was hired to do the minutes? Is that the way, I thought that's what you said when you read that.
It can read that way, certainly. I
They
mean,
hired me to do that. That's not why I was hired. It's a job I acquired.
right,
afterwards.
a word, like, has directed the job or something. I could change the word.
Engaged.
What?
Engaged.
I'm going to make that change so you can sign it.
The municipal clerk. How would that be?
I
Would that
just
be a
did the
good
short-
change instead of saying that we hired Lynn just to do that? Do you have a problem with that, Paula?
No, but I have a problem with something else, unless I'm missing it. The third paragraph, a review.
1, 2, 3.
Yes, would you like, no, wait a minute. Oh, fourth paragraph, sorry. You alleged that the Ashfield Select violated the meeting because the minutes for James Improvers were not available until July 3rd on the town website. And I see that she made mention that they weren't available in the meeting book on July 3rd. But did I miss? I just want to be careful that the answer that goes out, otherwise I don't take issue that she's answered a question that was never in the OML to begin with. And unless, oh, wait a minute. Were placed on the town's website after my visit to town hall on July 3rd. Okay. I found something that at least goes with it.
The posting error on the website was that there was a computer glitch. It got held up in cyberspace.
Right, and I have the posting notice that I got when I posted July 2nd, and I also have the exchange of letters that go back earlier showing that they went in earlier. And I saw that in the complaint, and they were in there. When I went to check after getting the complaint, they were a couple of pages out of date in the minute book, so I don't know if that might explain.
I remember it being explained to me that, with so many people pawing around.
There have been a lot of people in it.
The only thing I was concerned about is that she's maybe answering the question that wasn't stated, because I don't think she complained that they weren't on the web. She was just saying that OML complaint is not right, but I'll let the person who sees it deal with it.
Can you take me to the sentence that you're referring to?
What I'm looking at is right here, it says you allege that they violated open meeting law because they were not available on the town website. When I read that, I read it differently, because it says the OML complaint is not right, as I did not know about the absence of Missourian from the minutes of January 16th until these minutes were placed on the town's website after my visit to town hall on July 3rd. Because the town website is not the official place. So I understand that. But that's how Donna chose to answer that.
Okay. Well, she referred to, it's a separate point that's on there, so I
she addressed it. Yep.
I don't think it's a problem. I don't think it is. Ron, you have any?
No, I'm all set.
So we'll just change that.
Change it to engaged and, you need a motion?
Do we have the original? Oh, we must.
Original one.
Should we print this? Do you have that at your fingertips?
Yes, I have
Oh,
put it on
okay.
the select board.
So we'll make that 2 page.
And
So-
then
Are you going to do that now?
I'm going to do that now, so you can sign.
We can just make the motion, Mary, and we can do it after we
Yeah.
adjourn the meeting.
Just
Don't
signature.
stop the whole
All right,
process
that's
at this point. So, a
Just as
motion,
long as you sign it tonight, because we have to get it in the project.
So move. Motion to accept, as amended.
seconded.
And did you include,
Right, we have to include the, well, see, it's already done.
well, we have to include the same appendix.
Right. Yes, we have to include the appendix.
The longer one, the one that we accepted that last time.
Right.
Okay.
So we're sending you the long one. All right? All those in favor say aye. Aye. It's unanimous. So we'll get that together. The longer one, and those two are off the list, so we'll get that together, right, Mary?
Yes.
Don't let me walk out of here without it,
I won't.
because you will not like 5:30 in the morning when I say I gotta sign that. All right, now there's an open meeting law complaint. We've got both of them done. Got both of those done. Look at that, we're already through D.
And did you sign both the response and the one to the AGO?
I can't until you change that.
No, it's all right. It's late, I think, 4.
Okay, Attorney General Office letters in response to complaint filed with the Attorney General's Office July 7th regarding original complaint filed with Selectboard. That's in our group regular folder, right?
Oh, and actually, just to go back, you could sign the one to the AG is just a cover letter, so.
Yeah, we'll
We'll
get
do
that,
them
we'll
then.
get
All
it
right.
sorted out in the office before I
right.
make a complete mess of it.
So what's E and F? Or are you doing that now?
E and F.
Okay. E and F's not there, you've got something
E and F
else
is
left.
here.
Okay.
Right? Attorney General Office letters of response to complaint filed with the Attorney General's Office July 7th regarding original complaint filed with the Select Board on or about May 14th by Suzanne Corbett, alleged violation dates April 8th and April 17th. Oh, so this is from the Attorney General. Thank you for contacting the Attorney General's Office. On July 10th, 2013, it just seems like an odd opening, but that's all right. On July 10th, 2013, we received your open meeting law complaint dated the 7th, which was Select Board on or about May 14th. The date of the alleged violation is 4/18 and 4/17. We will review your complaint and will contact you in the event that we require additional information. We will notify you of our determination following our office's review. Your complaint may be resolved through either a formal order or informal action. Formal orders contain a detailed discussion of the alleged violation, applicable legal requirements, and may order any of the remedies provided under the Mass General laws. If your complaint is appropriate for informal action, we will attempt to resolve the matter by speaking to the parties, followed by a brief letter noting whether or not there was a violation and what remedial action was taken.
So this is a later stage in the process. A complaint comes in, the board answers it, that goes to the complainant with a copy to the AG. The AG would step aside at that point, seeing that the board has responded to a complaint, but they give the complainant notice that they have a certain amount of time to say they're not satisfied with the response to the complaint, and then that sets a whole new process going, which does happen with a lot of them. So, for instance, part of yesterday and the day before, I spent some time talking to Jonathan Sklarzik about some complaints that were filed early in 12, because they get opened back up and you know, they can keep going to other stages. So that's what these two letters are about.
You were talking to the Attorney General's office about complaints that have gone past this to another stage?
Well, sometimes, I think they probably have a backlog, or depends when they get to it, so sometimes you'll hear months and up to a year later asking for another piece of information, or...
I'm not gonna read this one. This is, if you've
the
got
same.
copies of it, it's the same stinking thing, and, the same verbiage, really. And it's just addressed to Deb Nicholson, so.
Okay, I think you only have one copy. There aren't multiple copies.
There was a copy in your folder.
No, there might only been one
Oh,
copy.
there might only been one, I'm sorry. But
That's right.
it's the same
But
thing.
it is the same language, but relates to...
It's on July 17th, we received your complaint. Contact your complaint may be resolved through either formal or informal action.
And the salient details are on the agenda there, as to the dates involved.
Yeah. The Attorney General's office is on it. Okay, new business.
2 new appointments for the board. Carol Broman, town clerk, gave these forward. Carol Broman to Cultural Council, and Pat Thayer to Highland Ambulance Board of Directors. They've been asked, and both those people have been asked and have agreed to serve. I do have a letter here from Highland Ambulance about Pat, and the other one was verbal from town clerk, who got it from the head of the Cultural Council. And
What are the length of those terms, Mary?
that, I don't know, I didn't get to look that up. I should have. But maybe I can see what...
Don't we need to know that to do this?
I would certainly make Pat Thayer's a 3-year, because we want to hook her as long as we can.
And let me see, maybe if I have a second, I can somewhere on my pictures. But,
Is Pat taking, is it just an addition, or is she filling in for somebody who's leaving?
Pat Thayer?
She's been on a long time, but I don't think it's been a formal appointment, and that's what they're asking for, right? Is a formal.
No, I think it has been. Pat Thayer's 3-year term as Ashfield's representative on the Highland Ambulance Board of Directors expires on October 14th, 2013. And then there's something about the bylaws, the number of directors should be the minimum of the number of service communities. So she's Ashfield's representative. And Pat has expressed an interest in serving an additional 3-year term on Highland's Board of Directors. And that's a letter dated July 19th from Highland Ambulance Service.
So I'll make a motion that we appoint Pat Thayer to the Highland Ambulance Board of Directors for a 3-year term, and appoint Carol Roman to the Cultural Council for 3 years.
The only reason I'm asking, I'll second it to get it on the table.
There you go.
I see in the Cultural Council, I see terms that expire in 2013, terms that expire in 2016 and 2017. So I don't know who she's replacing, so it's kind of hard to do it. It might be an interim person here, so it might be 1 year. I think.
How about if we do it for 1 year, and we can always add her to the list again next year? For some reason, a lot's been going on, and didn't get to me, and I didn't think to ask.
There's still going to be one person short, right? There's supposed to be 5 people.
I don't know who's on it. It looks like 5.
I think there's still going to be.
No, there's 7 on the cultural.
There's 7.
Well, there's 7 in this book, It's 5 on that page and 2 on this page.
Is there anybody in 15?
No, there's 2 in 2013, there's 4 in 2013. There's
that's
1, Don Fessenden in 2016, and then Fleming and Kinsey, Andrew Kinsey in 2017. 2.
How about if we did 2 years? That would get it out to 15. You don't want 2.
And fill that gap. And fill that
Are
gap.
they all 3-year
Too many
terms?
coming off.
Lynn raises a good point, if they're all 3-year terms.
No, because you have 2016, 2017, So it could be, I don't know when.
And they're all 3-year terms, she's coming in new, they have to meet.
So maybe it should be a
it's
3-year
term. Thank you.
So there's a motion and a second.
Both
Any
are
other
being
discussion?
appointed for 3 years, as I
Yes.
understand.
And how about the ambulance?
I did both of them, I made them all in one
3
motion.
years.
Good.
Okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So appointed. Chapter 90 money, we need some money.
These are from Tom.
After seeing that $303,000, 303,000 warrant, we need some money, we need some reimbursement from chapter 90.
All right, so this one is a reimbursement request that's signed by all 3, and then there are 2 copies of a project approval request, and that's signed by the chair only.
Now, I'm going from memory, this is the first time I've seen these since I've been back, but chapter 90, Tom goes to Mass Highway, talks about a project, gets it down in writing what he's going to do. They approve it to use Chapter 90 money. We expend the money, and they reimburse us. Is that correct? That's correct.
That is correct.
That's my belief.
That was a change. That was a change. Like,
Yep, that is
I don't
correct.
know when that changed. I mean, it used to be that they gave you the money.
Okay,
There was a time when they gave you the money, and then.
in advance of.
And then if it was a primary road, and I'm taking you down memory lane, just a little, so you know, and this is kind of my frame of reference, is that if you were using it on a primary road, which would be Baptist Corner, Spruce Corner Road, Williamsburg Road, a town road that connected to another town, you could use 100% of their money. And then if it was a secondary road, it was like for 80%. You
I'm trying to save you from that mosquito.
Oh, I'm sure you don't need much. But anyway, that's not the way it works now. So we've got, so this is, the amount expended to date on this project is $303, and we're requesting reimbursement for $90,840.
Why just under?
Because that's how much is left on, how much of the project you got done. You don't have to actually finish the project.
Okay.
You don't have to finish the project. And I had a discussion with Tom, and, they haven't come out with the new, they haven't finalized all of the Chapter 90 bond stuff
Yeah.
yet, but he has about $80,000 left. That's not
That's earmarked.
That's not earmarked. Correct. That's the word I was looking for. It's just that one request?
There's one reimbursement request, and then 2 copies of the same project request. And that,
And the accountant has to sign this.
right. And we keep an original and we send an original.
Don't need to make a motion on that.
Just
We
sign
know, we're
No.
gonna sign, we vote when we sign.
That's right.
We want our money. Hopefully, we'll get a bigger, braver, liaison reports. I talked with Tom about, he's got on Friday, if you want to go see something fun, maybe Friday or Monday, there's going to be, Caterpillar has decided that they really need to try out a Caterpillar grader. So they're going to bring them for 2 or 3 days and let them have it.
Caterpillar's going to bring it up to let them try it out. So that once you have it in your hands, you won't let it go.
Something to play with.
When is that, Friday?
So they've got quite a bit of work laid out for it. So it's supposed to show up Friday, so I think they're going to have it.
Supposed to sign this or?
That-
It just says municipal officials. Yeah, if they're asking
Do we just sign the front of this, or the second page also? There's a
Tom put a sign,
sign here. I guess you're right.
Good catch, Ron.
Yeah.
Well, I had a big sign, told me to do it, I wouldn't have got it otherwise.
The green was a giveaway.
Agreed. So, but I don't think that's gonna have a whole lot of effect on the specifications. They've got specifications pretty well set on what they want. So I am hoping that, I really want to get it advertised prior and ask for bids prior to September 1st.
So is this demo version they're bringing up for us to look at and put our fingers on? Have all the bells and whistles that we want? I mean, obviously, it's not running like a snowplow on it. But
My bet is that it probably has more bells and whistles on it.
they just happen to have one.
But-
Did we sign that other document?
But,
Chapter 90 project request? It's going to be another form.
is there another one?
It says sign two originals.
Maybe it was those two separate pages.
Reimbursement request, final report. That's what it was.
one reimbursement and 2 copies of the same project.
Oh, here's, but this is for the accountant to sign.
Right, did you sign twice
Sign 2
on the project?
We signed twice on
2
the
projects.
reimbursement. Right, but we didn't, it says the accounting officials.
Page 2.
Aren't there 2 exact copies of the
It's right here. Yeah, priority request.
Why
project?
is one backwards from the other?
This isn't, that's just the
That's the final
reimbursement.
report.
These 2 are the
Punch list. One's a punch list.
project
Environmental-
request.
An environmental punch list. What the hell is it?
He said there are 2 copies of the project request. That's the request up front to have
So this
approval.
must be a project for this year.
And he said we need 2.
Bituminous concrete, oil and stone, gravel, no sidewalks. Doesn't say what road it's on.
I was going to pass one to Warren.
They're supposed to know, but they're different. Oh, here it is, it's on the back. Baptist Corner Road, North Warger Road, Howe Road, Hill Road, and Burton Hill Road. Hot mix asphalt applied in place. Holy cow. 2,383 ton at $70.45 a ton in place.
All specked out by road.
So that's 167,000. And then this one,
I think that's a copy of this.
is it? It's the same
I believe it
thing?
is. I
think
didn't
it
put
is.
that.
Yeah, it says 2 copies, signed 2 originals.
Yeah. Sign two originals. Sign your life away.
No, you sign those 2 originals.
So there's place for 3 duly authorized municipal officials.
It says, please fulfill.
Was it the reimbursement that only has 1 place for signature?
No, we signed it in all 3 places. Duly authorized, had 3 lines.
All right,
Sign
Sign
away.
away.
it was earlier today.
Sign away. He's got the project approved and he needs our signature. Because I was listening to it on the radio and someone was saying, I'm noticing that the days are getting shorter. And some places are having sales on wood pellets. That's scary.
All right.
Oh, signatures date. 7/31.
All right, so that's what's going on with the highway department. Police.
Police, have you seen it on Main Street? The lovely little machine that tells you how fast or slow you're going? It's interesting.
It hasn't told
Down
me.
to 20.
It hasn't told me how slow I'm going, but that's all right.
Oh, thank you.
You want to go?
So are they happy? Are they? They figured out how to manage it yet?
I believe from that email, he said give them a little bit of time, but it's the end of the month, so I was gonna contact him, I was gonna send congratulations when it arrived, but I knew it was set up, but everybody could see it, so.
I guess
I
my
want to
thought.
catch up with them and see what they think of it.
I guess my thought on it is, I mean, it was great to get it up, get it set, I think that
Yep.
was very good. I think it did a lot of good, but I would just, if he was here, I would remind him there's a lot of places in town that could use it.
Well, the other day I saw it connected up to the SUV vehicle. And it was connected to it, so I was wondering if maybe they were gonna take it out, because then you could get some statistics in it if you were trying to figure out everything it does to get some statistics Main Street, statistics someplace else, and see how that all works, because it goes with that portable handheld device to download that data. And it's nice to have data from more than one place, so I had a feeling it was probably headed out.
Yeah, well, I saw it, you had it.
Yep. And it wasn't on Main Street, so it had to go someplace else. I'll send him a note and ask him.
One spot that I thought would be good, especially after Labor Day, is Baptist Corner Road, where, with preschool, right on the corner by the planes down there.
Yeah, people pick up speed there.
Yeah, you can kind of use that corner as a little slingshot if you do it right. But, that's just one of a number of places that, and with the preschool there, I would think that would be
Especially with it just
because
starting
we
up.
walk the dog down through there, and it's amazing how fast people come around that corner.
That's preschool doesn't operate in the summer? Because aren't a lot of these kids little kids?
I think I do. but
So
I
they
don't
must
know.
be there all the time, not just starting school?
I'm out at the loop now.
It's year round,
Is it year round?
Okay,
probably diminished.
might be,
Yeah, it doesn't
Good
look like
place
much
on the
traffic
list.
there when I go by, but maybe I just don't go by at the right time. So,
yeah,
so that's good.
yeah.
And then fire department,
Oh,
they was playing with the truck yesterday or something, the lights were going out on it, so they had a guy from VTech here. I don't want to steal
Okay.
your thunder.
No,
but
no, please
I
do.
said,
You
what the hell?
probably saw him and talked to
I
him.
said, what are you burning up all this fossil fuel for? And they said, oh, the lights go out, the big external lights go out.
Oh.
Oh, so, but I think they fixed it yesterday. Put in a bigger fuse.
Well, and
Put a piece of copper pipe in there.
that didn't come all assembled. I mean, that came in pieces that had to be put together, so in some ways, you'd like it to be perfect, but it's sort of not a surprise that there's this, that, or the other thing that needs some adjustment, a little bit.
I'm losing sleep.
You're losing sleep. Yesterday came through. It's the first time I had come through when the gang was here. The crew doing all the painting.
Sweet, yeah.
Oh,
And I mean, I think,
good.
I really think when they get done, we need to send a letter to the sheriff's office, Mary. Just something, absolutely, I think it looks wonderful. I was kind of watching them, they're doing a really good job of scraping and putting the primer. I mean, they're not doing the good job, they're not doing the regular job. It looks to me like they're really doing the good job. I thank every one of them profusely and the deputy that was there. And when they came in for lunch, they were sitting on the benches. I said, for God's sakes, don't eat out of your lap. Paulette put those nice tablecloths there, use them.
Join them, yeah.
And then I don't even see any big stains. No, so I just think that was wonderful service. And so, and I told every one of them that I really appreciate it, especially the guys that were way up high.
And I, by accident, caught up with Stuart one morning at 7 o'clock. And he was on the other side of the plywood wall where they're excavating underneath.
I have
Oh,
not,
and Brian is here to tell us about it.
Well, Brian's running the Bobcat.
I have not gone down to investigate.
Probably don't want to.
We've excavated the east side of the addition, approaching the vault foundation. Then we turned north and headed into the main room. The sill is supported under the old back wall, the original back wall of the building, and a hole has been punched into the main room. The east side chimney, which is in Laura's office, is sort of in the middle of that doorway, we're in the process of taking down that chimney to allow us to then excavate into the main room. So that's the state we're at. We're confining our activities to weekends, Friday, Saturday, Sundays.
Including one really hot weekend.
Yeah, it was cool down there.
It was cooler. So, good. Well, thank you very much. I'll come down and do a next vote. I got enough construction going on at my house. Yeah, you do.
Need any bricks?
No, damn, that's the last thing.
They're historic.
So.
You looking for a home for bricks?
Well,
Are they underneath there?
Out of that chimney?
no, they're in the chimney.
We'll use them here for something.
We're knocking them down. They're not.
Yeah.
At first I thought they might be salvageable, but they're not of any
They probably weren't the
value.
highest quality to begin with.
Garden bricks, huh?
I think they are, a good mason did the job. The chimney's coming down with a lot of effort, but the bricks are not surviving the experience. So. And
Well, I think we've had just about all the public comment we can stand today.
I do have just a little on the liaison.
Oh, well,
'Cause
see,
don't-
I asked you and you said you were losing steam, so
Well,
I was gonna skip you.
No, I appreciate that. This is where I'm going to offer this on a regular basis, just because it's an ongoing situation here. But it's we have to deal with an easement. As you recall in the inspection report, which is an ongoing thing, and this is my only chance to really kind of report to you guys, we need an easement clearly over Phil Nolan's property, 20 feet to the north of his property, along the northerly extreme of his property where it butts Ashfield Lake. I'm calling that a mowing easement. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to get my thoughts down on a piece of paper before I go to Donna to have this drafted formally. Plus, I'm trying to include Phil Nolan in this every step of the way because he's extending this nice thing to us as a courtesy. So the stuff at the top is just legal jargon. There was this access easement that I've been told was granted to our fire department to access the dry hydrant. And I believe they crossed both Scott Decker's property and Phil's because of the way the boundary line goes. It kind of goes across that road that accesses the dry hydrant. Doug thinks, Phil says that the town absolutely secured an easement from him. I don't see evidence of it anywhere, and I think it kind of got lost in someone's file cabinet. So while we're dealing with this other easement, the mowing easement, it makes sense that we also have access to that hydrant. I think that's a very important hydrant.
Sure, but that must have happened 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, that hydrant is not new.
No, it isn't new at all. So I went in and spoke with Dell tonight, and he was going to check with Doug to see if they had that laying around somewhere. It could even be in a lawyer's office, but it needs to get
Recorded.
It needs to get recorded, and if no one can find it, we'll draft up another one that gives the town access to that hydrant.
And just in case it's here somewhere here in town.
I'd love to know it, yeah.
You looked already?
I haven't looked at it, no.
So it's about 20 years ago, you think?
Yeah,
Being
I know.
town and Nolan.
Yeah.
Would they have had Donna help with that at that time, and maybe, or
It
was
could
she
be.
not, maybe?
It could be.
She might even have something in her file.
I don't see anything in any, he's had some, Phil's had some recent deed updates and such, and I don't see anything referencing an easement, which they usually do when you do an update of your deed. They'll say,
Probably
please see the
recorded.
easement that
20 years
is
ago.
in favor of the town. Anyways,
Handshake.
yeah. The other one is a mowing easement, a little bit more, actually, the access easement, before I pass over, talks about a vehicular barricade along the access route to the dry hydrant. You remember there was that wooden barricade there? I think something like that is probably sufficient, but it's the town's obligation to make sure that that road, that people don't just drive up there and do crazy things, so. That's what was brought to my attention, and I'm putting it forth here.
Yeah, the only thing about a more permanent type thing, like, a nice swinging gate, you know, like a gate you see going into the DAR. Is that, God, you gotta make sure somebody has the key to it.
That's right. I didn't want to get into I thought I left the town enough leeway to figure out what to do, you know, between them and the owner, whoever the owner is in the future of the property. This might have to also include Scott Decker, the way it comes so close to his boundary.
That was my next question, because you gotta go over Decker's.
So I gotta, yeah, for sure. And I've been told that he might be very receptive to the idea, just like Phil. So I didn't think I had to until recently, and now I'm getting ready to, but at least I have something to show him. This is where the point is.
His shop would be the first one that would need the hydrant.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I'll bring that up to him. Then under the mowing easement, it's just the right to cut or mow vegetation within an area 20 feet in width, running the entire length of our northerly boundary. Remember, this is Phil granting this to the town. The purpose of this easement is to control undermining root and vegetation growth immediately adjacent to the earthen dam of Ashfield Lake. And then conditions of grant. And it'll be up to Donna to determine the right way to say this. This is just a neat document. Trees, 5 trees, 3 oaks, 1 ash, 1 birch, located at the westerly end of the dam, which is near his house, will be allowed to remain standing so long as they remain healthy and viable. These trees were negotiated at the time that the dam was improved in the late 1980s and were allowed to remain in place at that time. At a point when the trees are deemed unhealthy, the town will have the responsibility to cut and dispose of them unless the owner wishes to retain them for firewood. There's a concern over any damage done to the dam, you know.
Sure.
I think we should have that sort of thought. I went out and looked at those 5 trees. Phil tells me they were, you can tell they were definitely there back at the end of the 80s.
Huge trees, I mean, they didn't get that way overnight.
And the dam is almost insignificant at that end of the long expanse that it goes. It's hardly holding back the lake, you know. I mean, I'm not saying it's insignificant, but I can't believe that we should change. And I contacted the fellow at Time Bond today, and his last inspection, they do it every 2 years, was 2012, and I told him we might be looking for his services for permitting both the bridge, because we're crossing a waterway there, and I'd be interested in a proposal, and I'd like him to come up and look at this, walk this with me, because I want to talk to him about those trees. And he informed me that last year was his first year of inspection. It's not like he's been going there 20 years. So if I impress upon him the need to work with this owner to leave these trees, and he gives a gentle nod,
That was the key piece.
that's a very important part of the easement. Otherwise, we might face Phil in a different frame, you know, because we're cutting down all his shade. And I also told the fellow we might need him for permitting on the Sanderson side, and I'd like him just to take a peek at it. So I'm going to walk him in both those directions, and he'll give us a proposal that we'll review at this desk, okay? That won't authorize anything. And then I said, the other thing Phil wanted to make sure of is that the easement should in no way be construed to diminish the development potential of the property over which the easement lies. And I don't see any way that would. You'd still have the same area. It's just an easement. You're not granting a fee of the piece of property. So I don't think that's an issue. I just wanted you guys to see
That
this.
easement would mean they wouldn't be able to put an addition onto it.
Yeah, but 20 feet, I mean, you're close to that wetland anyways, and so on and so forth. And what do we care if like those cabins would cross that easement? You know, the cabin that's there and the one that burned down, they actually cross the boundary line, you know? And so,
Of the easement?
of the boundary line of Nolan's, I don't really care. What I'm most concerned with is the vegetation because of the roots and such. So if a building gets a variance and goes right up to the boundary line, that's one less place we have to clear vegetation, right? So
That's all right.
that's okay. So this is where, and I haven't met with Phil to show him this, but that's the next step I would do is meet with him, meet with the engineer, because that key piece about the trees, and then get this off to Don and say, now make it a legal document that can bind the town and Phil and Scott. And I'll also visit with Scott with the same document, but he doesn't have the mowing issue behind him. It's all like stone and riprap, and it's not the same thing, it's just access.
But you can still get a lot of vegetation and growth in the middle of that. We probably want to do something to minimize that.
I'd do the same thing, and just say, we're interested in this.
Donna will probably know, but the issue with the dry hydrant,
Yep.
I'm thinking back to my house fire,
Yep,
his access to the dry hydrant meant they connected hoses and they dragged them all over the place across the easement.
yeah,
It's not just go there to test it and blow it out into
Right.
the lake. I mean, when they really use it, they've got trucks. I think each
Oh, yeah.
hydrant had 2 trucks and all kinds of hoses.
there'd be
and-
tons of stuff there. She would have to
Yes.
say an auxiliary, fire equipment, and all this other.
Yeah,
extra
something
area.
probably,
Yeah.
because, and I think they go there every now and then. I'm sure they must have a schedule. They go and they either practice or they test it to make sure. I mean,
Yeah, I'll put a note on here, Paulette, about and related equipment and stuff like that. Okay, I just wanted to give you an update.
But I think it's great to get it, some of this stuff that we find that hasn't been formalized,
Yeah.
to get it to the proper places.
I guess equipment, you know, I would think that we could put in there, you know, mobile equipment that's used from time to time. I mean, it's not like we're gonna set up a huge pumping station there that's gonna be a permanent.
Right.
Right. Yeah, it's an on-demand use, it's not an everyday use.
I mean, it's
Well,
all
I mean,
fire related, right?
Right, but I mean, you know, who knows in 10 years if somebody would think they needed a 1.5-story building with a, you know, 5,000 horsepower pump or something, you know, that you can squirt water all the way down to the Episcopal Church. I mean,
Okay,
I
I'll
mean,
make a note of that then. And
we want to honor both of those people's property rights, you know.
Yeah.
Just because they give us an easement doesn't mean we're going to be putting something.
no, definitely not.
Okay. Thank you for doing all that.
Yeah.
And when you're talking to the engineer, I mean, we've got, you know, you make him aware it's not just a exercise in futility, because we have we have money appropriated so we can do these things. We can.
I'll remind him. Right now, it was the first phone call I made to him, so he's interested in getting together. It'll probably happen sometime in August. I told him nothing urgent. Combine it with some other stuff. I'm not looking for a bill for the proposal.
No. Okay. All right. I am leaving with my wife on the 10th, just so anybody was wondering. I'm vacationing with my wife this time. And so what I'll do is next week I'll be in contact with Mary.
You know, sorry, I probably should have said before, I'm going to be gone all next week.
Oh, you are?
I am. I mean,
So-
maybe we can talk if there's something,
You're going to be gone all next week.
we're going on.
Well, by the end of, when are you leaving? Are you leaving Saturday, are you leaving Friday, are you, I just, sometime point where,
Great.
I mean,
Shouldn't have cut you off.
I can talk to you if
Yeah.
there's just a couple of things that I think needs to be on the agenda, but Ron,
Oh, yeah.
I guess as vice chair, you'll have to set up the agenda for the 14th.
Okay.
And then we've already got some appointments going for the 28th. I'll be back in town the 20th.
What's on the 28th?
We have a meeting the 28th.
No, I meant, you said we have some appointments.
Well, we have this poll hearing. We're going to review Sherry Scott's deal.
No, you moved the poll hearing to September.
Oh, that's right, September. Why was I thinking the 28th?
I don't know.
The 28th, we do have a meeting, the 14th and the 28th.
I'll be back in town. I guess that's right. That's September. Hey,
When do
28th on my
we,
mind.
when do you leave?
I would say 28 days.
Do you leave on the 10th, did you say?
And you're
10th.
back
When
to
do we
the
get the warrants? Are you interested in signing them or not? I mean, it takes.
Well, we're meeting on
Wednesday.
Wednesdays now, so that doesn't work.
Well, no, but I'm saying Monday is the 12th. And I thought the
Oh, I see.
warrants were ready on Friday, if you were interested in reviewing.
Yeah, and I probably would do it Saturday morning or.
That's what I'm wondering.
If I can do it, I'll do it. If I can't do it,
But 2 signatures will do as well.
And in a pinch, I know some of us were at class, if we were absolutely in a pinch and you only had one select board member who could sign, and
Town clerk.
the town clerk can be the other signature if you don't have, for some reason, somebody there. But usually 2 of us make it.
So you know what's pressing, Mary, for the 14th?
Nothing is pressing at the moment,
Okay, and when are you disappearing?
and I will disappear as soon as I can get out of here.
No, I mean, are you
Yeah,
gone
no,
for that
I-
week?
Hmm?
Are you gone for the week of the 5th, is what I'm trying
I am, I'm gone for the whole week.
And when are you back?
Let's say Tuesday.
Well, but I gotta get an agenda posted, right?
Oh, we have to get an agenda posted Monday, so I'll get back, I'll talk to you, I'll do that.
We get post an agenda by the 12th.
I know, that's why I'm asking when she's getting back. She said Tuesday would kind of put me in the world.
Right, which would, 12th is what?
12th is a Monday. It needs to be done by 7 o'clock Monday.
On Monday. Yeah, I'll keep that in mind, and I may come down for a few hours and do it toward the end of that week or something. I can check with you.
I bet if you came down, I bet Lynn could do it in a heartbeat.
Or I can work a little bit remotely and get something going.
Okay.
But if I think of something, I'll shoot both of you an email or
Okay.
have Mary do it or something. So somebody, just a salient point, something that I think if I come up with something.
Thank you.
But I'm not going to be long now.
You going away?
I'm going to be a long ways away. Going to San Diego.
Self-distance, we can do the interconnect if you want. I'm always kidding.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
All right, let's do it. It is 10:30-ish. All right, well, thank you. Mary, I've got to stay and sign that.
You do?